Chapter 315. In the center of the city, the fire dyed the dark night red. The QB just waved his claws casually, and the houses on the street collapsed one by one. The sound of explosions, cries, and curses intertwined into a tragic scene. "Look here, QB. Where are you looking? Look at me. Bastard." In order to divert the QB's attention from the villagers, the ninjas used all means. Although most of them are weak, and some of them can't even use chakra, after using a few ninjutsu, they didn't give up. Kunai, senbonzai, shuriken, explosive tag. As long as they can throw it out, they threw it out to stop the QB. Don't be afraid. Even if there is no way to defeat the QB, we must try to contain him, and buy time for everyone to escape. Cooperate with Hiruzen-sama to lead the QB out of the village. Seeing everyone's efforts, Sandame was pleased and bit his finger on the ground. "Come out, Ape King." A monkey with its arms crossed was summoned. "It's the QB. Is the seal broken?" "It's too late to explain. We must drive him out of the village as soon as possible," Sandame said resolutely. "Ape King, use Vajrarui." "Understood." The demonic ape acknowledged, and then turned into a thick and long iron rod. Sandame took the iron rod in his hand and ordered, "Grow." The iron rod quickly grew and directly hit the QB's body, as if to push him out of the village. However, the QB suddenly turned into a cloud of smoke and disappeared. At #ninjutsu? Sandame's eyes widened, and his mouth twitched wildly. "Garashi Minato, what did you teach him? The QB knows ninjutsu, how can he play?" What's even more outrageous is that the QB's hind legs were sitting on the ground, and his two front legs began to form hand seals like a human. The QB's escape technique? Thinking of the QB's chakra, Sandame felt his scalp tingle. Why would a retired Naruto do such a dangerous thing? Sandame didn't have much time to think, so he directly summoned 4 shadow clones, and used his signature ninjutsu, 5 release. Dalian bullet technique. 5 different elemental escape techniques were used at the same time. They converged together, and collided violently with the 1,000-fold grand fireball technique that the 9-tailed seal used. It was as if there was a huge explosion that could split the heavens and earth apart. The terrifying shockwave instantly destroyed the surrounding houses, and the entire street was blown up. The ground was like a scorched tortoiseshell, filled with cracks and ashes. The villagers who couldn't evacuate in time were seriously injured by the shockwave. The battle between Lord Hiruzen and the QB is too intense. We can't even get close. Hurry up and save them. Those are the spiritual beasts that Lord Garashi brought over. Damn it, this damned bastard. Seeing the miserable state around him, the third generation's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. But before he could counterattack, he saw QB's 2 forelegs clawing at a small Sun-class Super Otama Rasengan, and he was about to launch a Bijidama in his mouth. There's no way to fight this. Sandame's heart was filled with grief and indignation. In the past, he could barely suppress 9-tailed beast, but now, he would be lucky if he didn't get beaten to death. But even so, he didn't give up. Summoning Jutsu, 5 Rashomon. 5 gates that symbolized the entrance to hell instantly appeared in front of him. QB didn't care. He waved his Super Rasengan one after another, and the last Bijidama directly destroyed the remaining 3 gates. Fortunately, Sandame already knew that the Rashomon might not be reliable. When QB's line of sight was blocked by the Rashomon, he took a slight detour. Then, the moment the Rashomon was destroyed, he swung his iron staff from the left at QB. After all, QB was being controlled. In his chaotic state, he didn't notice Sandame's movements. When he reacted, he was already hit by the iron staff. Roar! I finally hit him. Hearing QB scream, Sandame was overjoyed. But before he could relax, QB endured the pain and grabbed the other end of the iron staff. The next moment, QB raised the iron staff and lifted Sandame into the air. Then, he used all his strength to smash down. Sandame naturally didn't dare to compete with QB in terms of strength. He could only let go and dodge. Boom! The terrifying power instantly collapsed the ground. The shockwave that spread out was like a super earthquake. Phew! That was close. Looking at the miserable state he was standing on, Sandame's back was full of cold sweat. If he was hit, he would be directly turned into a meat patty. However, Kyubi didn't intend to let him go. He waved his iron staff and kept hitting him. Seeing the scene of Kyubi waving his iron staff, Sandame lamented in his heart. This Kyubi doesn't have any morals. Not only did he use ninjutsu, he even took his iron staff. Demonic ape shrink. Hearing Sandame's order, the iron staff instantly shrank and slipped out of the gap between Kyubi's claws. Kyubi was like losing his favorite toy. He roared and printed again. With a bang sound, more than a dozen Kyubi surrounded Sandame. This is shadow clone technique? Seeing this scene, Sandame's heart sank. With Kyubi's chakra, he can easily create thousands of shadow clones. But his body is too big, and he will squeeze himself out of wood leaf. However, even if it's only a dozen shadow clones, it's enough to make Sandame despair. More than a dozen Kyubi swarmed up and surrounded Sandame in the middle. 1 minute later, Sandame was lying in the hole looking at the night sky. The pain all over his body made him unable to stand up. I tried my best. It's a pity that I didn't use Shiki Fujin at the beginning. Shiki Fujin needs to control the enemy to be able to hit. In his current state, it's impossible to control Kyubi. After all, I didn't expect to deal with a strengthened version of Kyubi. Sandame thought sadly as he watched Kyubi raise his fist and hit him. Not good, go protect Hiri-sama. It's over, even Sandame-sama was defeated. The surrounding ninjas rushed up, but Kyubi just casually hit them and sent them flying. The two sides are not at the same level. Fire release, ash concealment technique. A burst of gray ash came, and Kyubi's movement paused. Someone took the opportunity to drag Sandame out. Then, the ash suddenly burst into a raging sea of fire and submerged Kyubi. Asma, looking at the person who saved him, Sandame couldn't believe it. Asma proudly put his hands on his waist and said, "Hey, this time it's my turn to protect you." As soon as his voice fell, he and Sandame were pushed down by someone next to them. Where they were originally standing, a claw covered in flames slammed down. "Idiot! Now is not the time to be proud," Mizuki coldly said. "Humph. Thank you very much this time," Asuma hummed and said. Sandame struggled to stand up. "Don't be careless, the enemy is Kyubi." "Sandame-sama, let's try the awakening attack," Guy said with a thumbs up. "Awakening attack?" Sandame was confused. "That's it." Guy ran towards Kyubi and kicked him in the air. Kyubi 5 of diamonds attack. At this moment, Kyubi's DNA seemed to move, and while slapping Guy, he subconsciously shouted, 6 of diamonds, take it. It's really effective. Kakashi's mouth twitched, and he attacked with the Earth Dragon bullet. 10 of diamonds attack. Kyubi was silent for a moment, and then he wailed, "No, I can't take it." Everyone's eyes widened. "How bad do you think your luck is?" He couldn't take it. Kyubi became even more irritable in pain, and he unconsciously attacked everything around him. "Crap, I think we screwed up," Asma muttered. Sandame also sighed. He had actually fantasized about them, facing the berserk Kyubi, Wood Leaf, and the others were in a much more difficult situation. In one direction, Sunrise True Red's face was covered in blood as he leaned against a rock, and he coughed up blood as he sighed. "I really overestimated myself. When I saw Kyubi being controlled by an illusion, I thought I could do something about it." Red hurriedly tore apart a medical scroll, and he cried out, "Stop talking, stop talking." True Red smiled bitterly. "If I don't say it now, I won't have a chance to say it in the future." "No." Red shook her head and bit her lip. "You'll definitely be fine. I know my own body best. It's too late." True Red took a few deep breaths. "You have to take care of yourself in the future." Cough cough, "I'm very satisfied with that child Garashi. In the future you must. That's right, Garashi," Red said excitedly. "Hold on a little longer. Garashi will be here soon. He'll definitely be able to save you." "I believe that he'll come, but not to save me." True Red's eyes shone brightly. "He'll save Wood Leaf. He'll definitely be able to do it." In the other direction, Irika's body trembled as he cried out, "Blood, Mom! You're covered in so much blood." "Mom's fine. Hurry and leave." "How can she be fine?" Irika frantically shouted towards the battlefield. "Dad, Mom was hit by a rock while protecting me." Who told you to come here from the sanctuary? His father scolded in disappointment. Then he hurriedly shouted, "Hurry and find the nearby slugs." Slugs? Irika anxiously looked around. However, the slugs around him were either treating others, or were so tired that they were curled up into a ball. What should I do? What should I do? Just as he was crying helplessly, a light drizzle suddenly started falling from the sky. Irika's mother, who felt her life constantly flowing away, felt that something was off. This rain seemed to have a powerful vitality. Is this an illusion? Just as she was thinking this, a voice suddenly rang out on the battlefield. Everyone who doesn't have time for the slugs to heal you, try your best to let your wounds come into contact with the raindrops. These raindrops can be used to heal your wounds. Hearing this voice, everyone on the battlefield trembled and excitedly looked in the direction of the voice. They saw Garashi standing on the Naruto cliff. Sorry I'm late. Chapter 316. After comprehending the mystery of integrating yang release into wood release, and the method of combining perception with raindrops, Rinsei creatively developed a ninjutsu that combines yang release and rain release. At the same time, this ninjutsu is currently the largest medical ninjutsu in the shinobi world, Serene Rain. Feeling the vitality in the rain, Irika was so excited that he couldn't control himself. Great Garashi. Senpai is here, mom can be saved. Shinka touched his wound with a shocked expression. What level of medical ninjutsu is this? Not to mention that it covers the whole field. Even the effect is above the A-class divine palm technique. It's amazing. You've already grown to this extent, Shushi? Seeing that Shinka's complexion improved, Kurenai smiled and looked at the direction of Naruto Rock. Thank you, Garashi. Everyone present was also excited. Great Garashi, Sama is here. With Garashi, Sama here, we can definitely subdue the Kyubi. Sandaime was relieved and couldn't help but remind loudly. Be careful, Kyubi can use ninjutsu. Hearing Sandaime's slightly sad voice, Garashi's face was full of apology. There is no doubt that this enhanced version of Kyubi is his masterpiece. Of course, Minato and Shinakushina also have a share of the blame. I know. Sandaime was still a little worried. Try to deal with it first. Wait for the others to come. Then we will attack together. No. Garashi shook his head slightly. The longer we delay, the more damage Kyubi will cause to Woodleaf. But you alone. Don't worry. It's a good opportunity to test my newly developed technique. Without waiting for Sandaime to reply, Garashi created a shadow clone to maintain the tranquil rain, while he walked to the front and jumped down from Naruto Rock. Kurama, I'm sorry. For the sake of Woodleaf, I have to be heavy-handed. Garashi clapped his hands in the air. Immortal technique. Would release. True Thousand Hands. The thousand-hand Guanin's gigantic Buddha statue appeared on the battlefield. Its size, which was several times larger than Kyubi's, rendered everyone speechless. After a series of gasps, someone finally regained the ability to speak. This is Lord Garashi's power? This is too shocking. Heavens, what level of power is this? Compared with their focus on the power itself, those who had experienced the Warring States period and witnessed Hashirama's power were in tears. That's Would Escape. It's the first generation's Would Release. That young man, could he be the reincarnation of the first generation? Even the Sandaime-sama was so shocked that his jaw dropped. Would Release? Could it be that Garashi has the bloodline of the Thousand Hands clan? The Thousand Hands clan took the initiative to disintegrate and integrate into Woodleaf. Although the bloodline was diluted a lot, it did allow the bloodline of the Thousand Hands to spread. However, Garashi shouldn't have anything to do with the Thousand Hands. Could it be that he developed it himself? Mizuki was also shocked. He, who also mastered Would Release, knew better than anyone else that it's impossible to reach this level with Would Release alone. But because of this, he looked at Garashi with more and more fanatical eyes. As expected of Garashi, this kind of godlike power is only worthy of Garashi. My Would Release is nothing but the grace of the gods. In the distance, because of her fear of blood, Tsunade, who could only cooperate with Katsuyu's treatment, looked at this scene and shed tears. This is Grandpa's Would Release. Garashi, You really are the one who inherited Grandpa's will. This level of power, no matter what, it's too exaggerated. Danzo was also shocked. Although he experienced the Warring States period, he was still young and didn't see the first generation's real power. But this is good. When he thought of his own team holding such a powerful force, Danzo's heart was burning. Jia, don't let me down. Outside the village, the two people who were fighting also looked at the village with surprise. Different from the original story, Bordered Soil understood the flying thunder god Jetsu better than in the original story, so he wasn't killed by Minato. But the gap in combat experience still made him suppressed. This is would release? Bordered Soil was naturally familiar with this. After all, he was the one who learned the wood release cutting technique from White Zetsu's body. It's Garashi's chakra. Minato couldn't help but praise. As expected of Garashi, he actually recreated the first generation's wood release. Yes, as expected of. Bordered Soil paused and swallowed back the words senpai. Wood Leaf's most shining light. Minato looked over with a smile. Your plan has failed. Bordered Soil snorted. As long as I can capture you, it's not a failure. Back to the battlefield. Seeing this familiar scene, Kyubi was stunned. Immediately, an unforgettable hatred emerged. Even in a controlled state, he couldn't hide his anger. Hashirama, you bastard! Kyubi roared, and made dozens of shadow clones to surround him. Dangerous! I want to show you how dangerous I am. Garashi stood on top of the Buddha statue, and controlled Guanyin to stretch out her arm, and pinch Kyubi's shadow clones like they were insects. Oh, it's really not dangerous. The wood release absorbed chakra, and the shadow clones directly turned into white mist and dissipated. Seeing this, Kyubi was furious and directly launched a Bijidama. However, Garashi just pushed the Buddha statue's arm forward and easily blocked the Bijidama. It wasn't that there was no loss, but the destroyed arms were quickly regenerating under the replenishment of wood release's chakra. And in the blink of an eye, the destroyed arms reappeared. Hiss! Worthy of the first Hokage-sama's wood release. The Sandaime looked at this scene and couldn't help but gasp. That was a super attack that could destroy Rashomon in an instant, but it was directly blocked by Garashi. Even Garashi couldn't help but sigh. The enhanced version of wood release with yang release was really powerful. Or it could be said that it absorbed chakra's characteristics to restrain tailed beasts. At least in Garashi's view, without wood release, it wouldn't be so easy to deal with Kyubi. Of course, Kyubi also lost his mind. Seeing that the Bijidama was ineffective, Kyubi directly rushed up. Garashi controlled the Buddha statue and pressed Kyubi to the ground, as if he was going to kill a dog. No matter how Kyubi struggled, he couldn't get away. Seeing the Kyubi, who easily defeated the Sandaime, and even made the whole of Konoha helpless, being captured like this, everyone felt like they were in a dream. After the confusion, shock and ecstasy followed. Worthy of Garashi-sama, too strong, too strong. What shinobi demigod? I think Garashi-sama is clearly the god of shinobi. Everyone was excited and proud. Looking at the figure standing on top of the Buddha statue, they worshipped him like a god. Chapter 317. Kurama, wake up. Under Garashi's iron fist of love, Kurama gradually got rid of the control of the Sharingan. Seeing this scene, Garashi couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The bloodline is so powerful that in just 1 year, the Bordered Soil transformed from a shoddy Chunin to a point where he could control Kurama. Well, what's wrong with me? Ninetails shook his head, feeling a pain that he hadn't felt in a long time. That's great. You're finally awake. Shishi said happily. Wake up. Kurama was stunned, and the memories before he was controlled kept coming back, and suddenly he roared again. Damn Madara. Madara? Garashi showed some doubts in time, and then hurriedly stopped him. Kurama, calm down, look around. Kurama barely calmed down and looked around. The surrounding was full of ruins and scorched marks, and people looked at him with undisguised hatred and disgust. Kurama shrank his head slightly and said timidly, Did I do this? Garashi nodded and added, To be precise, you were controlled by others. Damn it, Madara, that bastard. Kurama was angry. Being controlled by the enemy to hurt his friends. This kind of thing is the most humiliating. Garashi frowned slightly. The person you are talking about, is it Uchiha Madara? Kurama's words were stuck in his mouth, and his face showed a trace of doubt. Now that I think about it, that guy's eye power seems to be much weaker than Madara's. If I wasn't unprepared, he wouldn't be able to control me at all. Garashi pondered for a moment, shook his head and said, let's put this aside first. You shrink your body first, and hurry with me to Shinakushina, Nei-san. I know. Seeing Kyubi use the transformation technique to shrink her body, the thousand-armed Guanin Colossus under Shushi also stopped moving. Seeing this, Kurama couldn't help but whisper, Garashi, your name is Garashi, right? Shushi sighed. You rascal, don't just change people's names. When Garashi left with the mini Kurama, the shadow clone, who had been maintaining the reign of tranquility, jumped on the head of the dead Buddha. The disaster is over. It's time to rebuild with Leaf. Hearing Shusher's words, everyone felt a sense of relief, as if they had just survived a disaster. Anyway, it's a great fortune to be able to survive this disaster. Yes, it's finally over. Everyone, don't let others underestimate our will of fire. Shushi's shadow doppelganger stood on top of the Buddha statue and said, before that, let me contribute some insignificant strength. The huge Buddha's statue moved again, constantly pushing the remaining ruins of the ruins. When the ground was almost flat, Shushi, who was standing on top of the Buddha statue, made a seal. Would release. For rooms, 2 rooms, 1 kitchen, and 1 kitchen. The huge Buddha's statue disintegrated, the branches extended and reformed, and finally turned into a brand new house. Everyone stared at this scene with their mouths wide open, and only after a while did they burst into cheers. Amazing, it's a miracle. Garashi, Sama is too gentle, he even considered this kind of thing. Sandame couldn't help but laugh. He actually used wood release to build a house. He really doesn't take wood release seriously. Temporary hospital. After Garashi used Flying Thunder God to teleport, Minato arrived almost at the same time. Seeing the mini Kurama beside Garashi, Minato was obviously relieved. Kurama, you're finally awake. Kurama's long ears drooped down, pretending not to hear. Minato didn't care and urged, Garashi, let's quickly seal Kurama back. Garashi shook his head slightly. Wait a minute, brother Minato. Did you catch the person who controls Kurama? Although he didn't quite understand why Garashi was in a hurry to ask this, Minato still replied calmly. No, that guy's space-time ninjutsu is too tricky. This is the root of my dilemma. Garashi looked dignified. The other party deliberately summoned Kurama to destroy with Leaf while Shinakushina. Sam was giving birth. It can be seen that this guy is definitely a bad bastard with no bottom line. Such a bad person. Who can guarantee that he won't catch little Naruto to threaten you in the future? Minato's pupils suddenly shrank. It is indeed possible. Then what do you think? Even you can't guard little Naruto all the time. Garashi said. Only the tailed beast in Jinchuriki's body can do this. Minato thought seriously for a moment and shook his head. Not to mention that Kurama is not that guy's opponent at all. This time, Kurama couldn't pretend that he didn't hear it. His ears popped open and he scolded. Why am I not that guy's opponent? Minato looked at him innocently. Weren't you being controlled before? Kurama was a little unconfident. That was because I was sneak attacked, and I will never be controlled again. Well, let's just say that. What do you mean by let's just say that? Garashi picked up the swearing little Kurama and stroked him a few times. When Kurama squinted his small eyes comfortably, he said, Brother Minato, go on. Minato looked at the scene of Kurama being stroked with a strange expression, shook his head, and after getting rid of distracting thoughts, he continued. Anyway, Shinakushina is Kurama's Jinchuriki. If you can't seal her back in time, I'm fine. Let Naruto become a Jinchuriki. The two of them turned their heads and saw Kushina standing at the door with a pale face, leaning against the wall. Shinakushina, did you hear it? It's strange if I didn't hear it. Don't try to be brave. Minato looked serious. You don't look like you're fine. I'm fine. Shinakushina pouted. Our Uzumaki clan has a strong vitality. It's because of your strong vitality that you're not dead now. Minato was rarely strict. Don't mess around, I will find a way to deal with Naruto. I'm too overbearing. Looking at them openly showing off their affection, Garashi sighed. Brother Minato, of course, I won't propose to let Shinakushina Nasen risk her life. Then you. With Minato's IQ, he quickly figured it out. You mean let Kyubi be divided into yin and yang? Hearing this, Kyubi's hair stood on end. What do these guys want to do to a poor, weak, and helpless little fox? Shinakushina's eyes flashed with a strange light. She rubbed her palms and smiled. Kurama, tell me, how do I usually treat you? Normal, very normal. Kyubi complained. You said you'll help me manage money, but you always manage it. Shinakushina stared. Since it's managing money, of course, there are risks. But why do you have more and more money? Ahem, in fact, it's because I secretly put Minato's money in it. Kyubi was at a loss. Really? Don't lie to me. Shinakushina looked at him with sincere eyes. Of course, why would I lie to you? Garashi also coughed twice. In fact, playing cards with yourself has a different flavor. Hearing them all say so, Kyubi closed his eyes, raised his limbs and lay down on the bed. Come on, you guys do it. Seeing this, the honest Minato was a little embarrassed. Kurama. Thank you so much, Kyubi muttered. Let's make it clear. I'm atoning for my rampage tonight. I'm not trying to help you. Chapter 318. The next day early morning. Danzo-sama, Yandame-sama and Hiruben-sama invite you to the Naruto building for a meeting. A root ninja knelt on the ground and said respectfully, I know. Danzo responded calmly, and then asked, What about the thing I asked you to do? The public opinion of the entire Woodleaf village is under your control. Very good. Danzo nodded with satisfaction and walked out of the underground. Finally, it's time for this old man to bask in the sun. On the street, some people were cleaning up the ruins left by yesterday, and some gathered in groups to talk about yesterday's events. In these discussions, a passerby made a righteous voice. As a Naruto, if he can't resist the threat when danger comes, and even secretly hide, that man doesn't deserve to be a Naruto. The people around hesitated. Hide? No way. Naruto-sama should be restrained by something? The righteous passerby shouted. What's more important than saving the village? This, you don't know yet, right? Before yesterday's chaos, Danzo-sama predicted this possibility, but our Naruto-sama didn't pay attention to it at all, which led to the subsequent disaster. Fear breeds hatred. When they fell into despair last night, of course, they hoped that Naruto-sama would save Woodleaf Village. But Naruto-sama didn't appear until the end, so of course, they were dissatisfied. However, Shushi's godlike appearance later extinguished their dark thoughts for the time being. Now, after being provoked by these righteous passersby, their hatred was reignited. Yes, that man doesn't deserve to be a Naruto. But if he doesn't deserve to be a Naruto, who else can be a Naruto? Do you want Sandaime-sama to come back? At this time, the passersby gave another suggestion. First of all, Naruto must be strong. Second, Naruto must have a sense of responsibility and save everyone when they are in danger. What do you think? Someone clapped his hands excitedly. No matter what, it should be Garashi-sama. This time, the two passersby were dumbfounded. Wait, Garashi-sama is indeed a good candidate, but his relationship with Minato is too close. And his relationship with the Uchiha clan is also good. Don't forget the Sharingan pattern that appeared in the Kyubi's eye last night. However, this time, the situation wasn't so good. After the disaster last night, Shushi's image in everyone's mind was almost perfect. So what if Garashi-sama isn't that kind of person? That's right. In terms of strength, is there anyone more powerful than Lord Shushi? That's right. Shu-sama saved so many people last night. He even considered the reconstruction after the disaster. Behind them pass with a gloomy face. This is different from what he expected. Obviously, he acted faster than Shimizu Shushi, and he had the right to warn the Uchiha in advance. He was always on the front line against the Uchiha. So why didn't everyone support him? Shimizu Garashi is younger than him, more handsome than him, stronger than him, more popular than him, and more contributions than him. Apart from these, what else can that kid compare to him? Just as Danzo was feeling indignant, Garashi's voice came from his side. Danzo-san. Danzo turned his head and snorted with dissatisfaction. What? Are you here to show off your reputation to this old man? Don't be complacent too early. This old man still has some tricks up his sleeve. Garashi shook his head slightly. Danzo-san, can I have a word with you? Although he didn't quite understand Garashi's purpose, Danzo naturally didn't show any fear. Let's go. This old man is not afraid of you. At this moment in the upper conference room, Sandame looked at the side and asked with a dignified expression, Aren't you going to stop Danzo? Minato sighed. He's right. I didn't fulfill my obligation as Naruto. If I take the initiative to look for him, it will make me look guilty. Sandame frowned. Then you're going to let him continue to spread rumors? He just wants me to step down from the position of Naruto. In fact, this is also good. Minato was free and easy. If the person last night was really aiming for Naruto's position, stepping down as Naruto can at least prevent Naruto from being threatened. Moreover, even if I step down from the position of Naruto, it's not his turn to take over. That's true. Sandame nodded in agreement, and then asked solemnly, Minato, is the person who controlled the Kyuubi last night really Uchiha Madara? Speaking of this, Minato also became serious, and after a moment of hesitation, he shook his head. I'm not sure. From what he said to the Kyuubi and the conversation with me, he does think that he's Uchiha Madara, but whether it's dojutsu or combat experience, he's far from the legendary one. Minato said, but to say that he's not Uchiha Madara, it's difficult to find someone in the Uchiha clan who fits the criteria. Even Fugaka's dojutsu is much weaker than the masked man. Sandame took a puff from his pipe. Could it be that the masked man is an Uchiha who went missing or died in the war, and came back to take revenge on Woodleaf after inheriting the will of Uchiha Madara? Hearing Sandame's words, Minato inexplicably thought of his disciple who was dug up after his death. But soon he shook his head in self-mockery. Bordered Soil is a good kid, but his talent is too poor. Even if he has 50 years, it's impossible for him to have such strength. Not to mention, how could such a kind Bordered Soil do such a cruel thing? Abandoning these distracting thoughts, Minato said in a deep voice, I went to see Fugako last night, and there's no powerful person on the list of those who died, or went missing in the Third Shinobi World War. And it's impossible for them to grow to that level in just a few years. In other words, it's best to put the suspicious person in the first two Shinobi World Wars. And in the Second Shinobi World War, there was such a talented senpai who went missing. Sandame's pupils suddenly shrank. You mean Kuroto? As soon as his voice fell, he denied it himself. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible, Kuroto is dead. Moreover, even if he's still alive, he would never do anything to harm Woodleaf. He loves the village more than anyone else. Since Sandame-sama said so, then I should be wrong. Minato didn't insist. After all, I really don't know much about Kuroto. Sandame sighed with emotion. If Kuroto is still alive, the relationship between the village and the Uchiha wouldn't be as rigid as it is now. Minato was a little surprised. He didn't expect Sandame-sama to have such a high evaluation of Kuroto. By the way, Sandame-sama, the masked man accidentally exposed a secret when he was fighting with me. That is, there may be people among the Kage of the other villages. At this moment, the door was pushed open, and a man in bandages walked in. Hee, the two of you are quite early. Chapter 319. In addition to Danzo, the two Naruto advisors and Garashi also came in behind him. Although it was strange why Garashi was with Danzo, Minato and Danzo didn't think too much about it. Danzo, don't go too far. Sandame looked at Danzo and said in a deep voice, Hiruzen, what are you talking about? How come I don't understand? Danzo smiled and sat opposite to Sandame. Don't tell me you didn't spread those rumors outside? Sandame suppressed his anger and said, Rumors? Danzo was puzzled, then immediately understood. Oh, you mean Naruto-sama's escape last night? Minato was fighting the Kyuubi behind the scenes last night. Sandame explained. Who saw it? Danzo knocked on the table. If there is no evidence, I will say that I was fighting the Six Paths Sunnin last night. You? Sandame-sama, you don't need to say any more. Minato shook his head slightly, then looked at Danzo. Danzo-san, you just think that I am no longer qualified to be Naruto. Well, I will step down from this position. Danzo was a little surprised. You are quite decisive. Minato smiled. Perhaps, I am not suitable to be Naruto. About the new Naruto, let's come up with a plan first. Danzo proposed. If we quarrel in front of the daimyo, it will inevitably leave a bad impression on the top of the land of fire. Bad impression? Sandame's eyes were strange. He knew that the daimyo was called Danzo in private. In that case, I propose Garashi, Minato said with a smile. Whether it is strength, reputation, or contribution, Garashi is the best candidate. Sandame nodded. I agree with Minato's proposal. Hamura and Koharu looked at each other, and then said the answer. We support Danzo. He has foresight, ability, and was able to predict the danger in advance. He is qualified to be the Hokage of Konoha. Seeing Min Yen and Kochan's attitude, Sandame sighed inwardly. If it was between him and Danzo, they would most likely support him. But if it's between Danzo and someone else, they will support him. He knew that they simply felt that the old man was more reliable. I still can't believe in the abilities of young people. The Sandame sighed inwardly. However, if it's 3 against 3, then the others can. But at this time Garashi suddenly said, I also support Elder Danzo. What? Sandame and Minato couldn't believe their ears. Garashi, how could you? If they didn't know that Danzo Ryo wasn't a match for Garashi, they would have suspected that Garashi was kidnapped. Many thanks to Lord Sandame and Lord Naruto for your misplaced love. Unfortunately, I am still too inexperienced and incompetent to take on such a heavy responsibility. If it's Elder Danzo, then he should be a better candidate than me. Haha, it seems that the answer is obvious. Danzo laughed as he got up and walked out. You seem to have a lot to say, so I won't disturb you. Mitokado and Koharu seemed to have expected this result, and followed him out without saying a word. When only the 3 of them were left in the room, Sandame couldn't help but ask. Garashi, why? Garashi sighed. Sandame, you should also know about the village's comments about Nissan, right? Of course I know. Sandame's expression changed slightly. Could it be that you want to give up Naruto as a condition for Danzo to stop targeting Minato? This is just part of the agreement. Garashi, you. Minato was moved, but at the same time he couldn't help but sigh. Silly. I don't care about that at all. If you're worried that I'll end up like Tsukumo-senpai, then you don't have to. Garashi looked at him sincerely. I know that Nissan doesn't care about this, but what about Sister Shinakushina and Naruto? Do you want them to live in an environment filled with hatred and hatred? Minato was shocked. What does this have to do with them? Sister Shinakushina is the vessel that sealed the Kyuubi, and Naruto is the reason for the temporary release of the seal. If Nissan can be said to be a coward, then of course, they can also be said to be the root of the disaster. If Danzo dares to do this, I will kill. Minato's gentle face showed a rare trace of killing intent. There are many people who support Danzo. Garashi's eyes were worried. If it really comes to that point, the Woodleaf clan may split because of this. Minato was silent. Not to mention others. The 2 Naruto advisors will definitely not agree, and even those who were dissatisfied with Danzo will change their attitude because of this. So Garashi, you chose to sacrifice yourself? Nissan, you don't have to blame yourself. Garashi smiled. In addition to you, part of the reason is for the Uchiha. Uchiha? Well, it may be difficult to ask Danzo to stop targeting the Uchiha clan in the future, but if it's just to not use this incident as a pretext, he agreed very readily. Garashi continued. I know that there is definitely an Uchiha behind this incident, but it is too arbitrary to push the Uchiha clan to the opposite side of the Woodleaf clan because of this. Sandame sighed. It is indeed the fortune of the Uchiha clan to have a friend like you. Not really. Garashi sighed with a complicated expression. I just feel that some of the village's policies are pushing the Uchiha clan to the opposite side of the Uchiha clan. And for them, this is a bit unfair. So I still want to try my best to fight for it. Sandame didn't comment. After all, This has something to do with the policies made by his sensei. In short, for the stability and harmony of the village, it is best for me to leave temporarily. Leave temporarily? Sandaime suddenly raised his head. Garashi, you want to leave the Woodleaf clan? Garashi smiled. You don't think that Danzo will let me, the most likely person to become Naruto, stay in the village, do you? Sandaime slammed the table angrily. Danzo, that bastard. With that said, Garashi looked to the side with an apologetic expression. And Minato-san, he won't let you, the former Naruto, continue to stay in the Woodleaf clan. Although he was somewhat reluctant to part with Shinakushina and Naruto, Minato didn't refuse. Garashi, you have done so much for me. My sacrifice is naturally nothing. Moreover, with my current reputation, it is also a good choice to stay away from the Uzumaki clan and give Naruto a normal growth environment. At that time, Danzo will announce to the public that we are going to perform a secret mission. If you miss Shinakushina and Naruto, Minato-san, you can come back once a month. Come back once a month? Minato's eyes lit up. That's enough, that's enough. Garashi took a deep breath and continued. As for the secret mission mentioned, it is actually another reason why I agreed to leave the Woodleaf clan temporarily. Chapter 320. Secret Mission? Sandaime-sama was puzzled. Isn't that the excuse Danzo used? Garashi didn't answer directly, but asked about another matter. Sandaime-sama, do you remember the ambush that the rock Crypsis set against me 2 years ago? How could I not remember? Sandaime-sama took a puff of smoke. That was the turning point of the third shinobi. Garashi recalled and said, in that incident, I found a shadow that was secretly stirring up chaos in the shinobi world. Sandaime-sama's pupil shrank. You mean in this incident there is also? Garashi nodded with a dignified expression. Yes, in the chaos last night, I sensed that guy's aura again. One secretly took over the body, bewitched the Tsuchikage to start a war, and the other manipulated the Kyuubi with the intention of destroying Woodleaf. With such dangerous existences together, it's really hard not to be concerned. Garashi said solemnly. And what makes me more concerned is, are there really only 2 of them in such an organization? Minato's expression also became serious. When the masked man fought with me, he also revealed a piece of information, that other shinobi villages may already have Kage under their control. What? Sandaime-sama couldn't calm down. The other shinobi villages already have Kage under their control. How could this kind of thing be leaked? Is that guy bordered soil a fool? Garashi thought in his heart, but his face was full of shock. This is a big event that is enough to shake the entire shinobi world. Sandaime-sama hurriedly said. Then, should we quickly send a warning to the other shinobi villages? Wait a minute. Garashi stopped Sandaime-sama. Not to mention the possibility that this was deliberately leaked by the enemy in order to provoke the gap between Woodleaf and the other shinobi villages. Even if it was accidentally leaked by the enemy, most of the other shinobi villages are now ready to deal with it, such as removing the control and erasing this part of the enemy's memory. At that time, if we send a warning but don't get the response we deserve, it may become an excuse for the other shinobi villages to attack us. After all, Kage is too important to the village. If we're not careful, it might turn into a diplomatic incident. Minato also reconsidered. Although that guy looks stupid, he can control the Kyuubi and try to destroy Konoha. He shouldn't be a fool, right? Could it be that this guy deliberately leaked it? Even that panicked look in his eyes was just an act? Thinking of this, Minato couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Even his reaction had been taken into consideration. That fellow's scheming was truly frightening. So you want to use this opportunity to secretly investigate them? Garashi said with a serious expression. Provoking the war, destroying the village, and secretly manipulating the Kage. No matter which one it is, it shows that there is a powerful organization with terrible ambitions in the shinobi world. My idea is that it's best if we can investigate this matter in secret without alerting them. Minato let out a heavy sigh. You're right. This kind of thing can't be ignored. Sandaime frowned. But while you secretly investigate, Aren't you also giving that group a chance to continue their actions? By the time you investigate it, maybe the other 4 shinobi villages have already been secretly controlled by that group of people. Garashi pondered for a moment and said, in that case, hide the fact that some of them may have already been controlled, and only mention that there is someone who intends to control Naruto, so that they can be more vigilant. Minato nodded in agreement. If the news of Kaguya being controlled in the other shinobi villages spread out, regardless of whether it's true or not, it will make the entire shinobi world fall into a state of mutual suspicion. I didn't expect there to be such a complicated relationship behind this incident. Sandame's expression was complicated. He only felt that the shinobi world he knew suddenly became strange. Alas, it's just that you have suffered a lot. Actually, Sandame-sama, you don't need to worry about me, Garashi said with a longing smile. Since I was born, except for the time in Woodleaf, I've spent all my time either on missions or fighting. I haven't had a good look at this world yet. This time, I can relax my mind and travel around this world. Minato laughed when he heard this. Yes, this kind of unrestrained life is something that many people envy. The more they said this, the more uncomfortable Sandame felt. Alas, Woodleaf is so lucky to have you too. 1 hour later in Minato's house. First, there was the sound of pots and pans being turned over, followed by a loud scolding sound coming from the room. Aya, I'm going to kill that bastard Danzo. Shinakushina took a spoon and was about to run out. Shinakushina, calm down, calm down. Minato hugged Shinakushina's waist, his legs stepped on the ground hard, but he was dragged by Shinakushina. How can you tell me to calm down? Shinakushina was mad. That bastard wants to drive you and Garashi out of Woodleaf. If worst comes to worst, I'll let Kurama go berserk again. Just say that he lost too badly at the school festival, and Kurama was unhappy. Shinakushina said confidently. Isn't it just a rumor? Who doesn't know how to say it? Minato didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't you win that time? Yes, Kushina said innocently, and then changed her mind. Then let's say that he deliberately let Kurama feel humiliated that time. Minato sighed. I know you don't want us to leave, but for Naruto, I can only do this. Hearing Minato mention Naruto, Shinakushina calmed down, showing a rare trace of weakness. I'm so worried that you will never come back. How can that be? Minato hugged her in his arms. Don't I come back once a month? I had a dream last night. I dreamed that in a world without Garashi, you and I were pierced by Kyuubi in the chest, bleeding a lot. Don't think too much, it's just a dream. Yes, it's just a dream. Back home, Garashi sat on the chair in front of the table with a meticulous posture. Even if there was no one else, he would never show a lazy and relaxed posture. Finally, I've come to this step. Next, I just have to wait and ferment. He has been planning to leave Woodleaf for a while, but even if it's temporary, he has to maximize the benefits. Just like this time, as long as he works a little, his image of a tragic hero will be deeply rooted in people's hearts. Moreover, the Uchiha will most likely regard him as the only savior to resolve the conflict between the Uchiha and Woodleaf. As for Danzo, he was the best candidate to crush the authority of the Uchiha. When Danzo is almost done playing, he will stand up and turn the tide. As for whether Danzo will do as he thinks, Garashi is not worried. He is still very confident in Danzo's political IQ. If it doesn't work, he can secretly influence Akatsuki to push Danzo. Woodleaf's situation is almost done. I can consider entering the next stage. Thinking of his plan, Shushi sighed to himself. While they are still making plans for one village and one clan, I have to plan for the whole world. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Chapter 321. Soon, a new piece of news spread throughout the Woodleaf clan. Have you heard? Last night, Naruto Sama was actually fighting the person behind the Kyuubi. I told you Naruto Sama is definitely not the kind of person who would run away. But in the end Naruto Sama couldn't catch the person, so he decided to resign. Huh, is that so? I heard that Naruto Sama retired in order to catch the person behind the scenes. Then who is the new Naruto Sama? Is it Garashi-sama? It is said that it will be Danzo-san. Huh. Eh. In the Uchiha clan. Fugaka listened to his subordinate's report with a complicated expression, and after a long while he sighed. You can go first. Yes. After his subordinate left, Mikoto came over from the side. It is really a blessing for the Uchiha to have a friend like Garashi-sama. Friend. Fugaka shook his head. I have always been deliberately trying to be good to them. But what about Garashi? He took the initiative to give up the position of Naruto for a good-for-nothing like me, and was even forced to leave. A despicable person like me is not worthy of being his friend. Don't say that about yourself. Mikoto comforted her son. You are also doing this for the future of the Uchiha clan. And do you think that with Garashi's wisdom, he won't be able to see your intentions? Because of this, I am even more ashamed. Fugaka sighed and gently touched Itachi's head. Itachi, this failure of a father has nothing to teach you. But there is only one thing that I hope you can promise me. Sincere friends, loving family. If they are in trouble, I will protect them no matter what. This is a real man. For that, no matter how difficult the road ahead is, I will face it. I will become such a man. Itachi nodded. I will definitely become a man like Garashi-sama. Hyuga clan. Phew. After receiving the news from the Uchiha, Hayashi breathed a sigh of relief. You are indeed very lucky. Hizashi agreed. As the second richest family in Woodleaf, and often compared to the Uchiha, in this case, it seems that they don't have a good impression of the Uchiha, who has always been suppressing the Hyuga, and hoped that the Uchiha will fall. But in reality that was not the case. It's true that they don't have a good impression of Uchiha, but they definitely don't want to see Uchiha fall. For the Hyuga clan to be able to develop in peace, the Uchiha, as the first to attract hatred, can be said to have contributed greatly. If it weren't for the Uchiha, they can't guarantee that the attitude of the higher-ups of Woodleaf would still be as gentle as it is now. I just didn't expect that Garashi-sama would go so far for the sake of the Uchiha clan. Hayashi sighed. It's because Shu-sama truly loves this village, Hizashi said excitedly. For his friends, for the sake of the village, he never cares about his own interests. Yes, Lord Garashi-sama is such a broad-minded man, Hayashi agreed. Such a man. I really want to follow him regardless of everything. Hizashi's eyes were shining. I believe that he is a man who can change the world. Hayashi looked at Hizashi with surprise. It was the first time he saw such a dazzling look in his younger brother's eyes. It's because of the fate of the separation that he longs for someone to bring change. Hayashi sighed in his heart, and then said seriously, Don't forget, you still have Niji. Yes, I still have Niji. Hizashi took a deep breath and said with firm eyes, I will train Niji well, and let him realize my dream. At the entrance of Woodleaf Village, Garashi's friends surrounded him. Because he has already scolded Danzo many times, no one cared about him here. Garashi, can we leave with you? Kurenai blinked her big eyes and asked hopefully. Well, we can also help you. Shizen nodded again, and again like a chicken pecking rice. Don't be silly. I'm going out to perform a mission. How can I take you with me? Garashi gently touched their heads. Besides, I'm only leaving temporarily. It's not like I won't come back. Maybe when you come back, I'll be back in the village. In contrast, Asma and the others were much more relaxed. If you ignore the tears in their eyes. You brat. Don't forget to train when you're outside. Asma and Garashi punched each other. Don't wait until the next time you come back. I'll catch up with you. Garashi laughed. I'll remember this. If I find that you haven't made any progress when I come back, don't blame me for laughing at you. Guy raised the corner of his mouth and gave him a thumbs up. Senpai, youth doesn't stop. Even if we can't train together, as long as we're under the same sky, I can feel your passionate heart. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I understand, I won't forget to train. Kakashi came out with a cold face. He wanted to say something but stopped, and finally said, Senpai, take care. Garashi laughed. Don't always stay in the past, look forward. After everyone sent their blessings, Garashi left without looking back. He wasn't hard-hearted, and leaving everyone was a very difficult choice for him. However, he couldn't stop. Sorry, I have to follow the path I plan. Before Otsutsuki comes, I must become stronger. According to his previous life, he couldn't hug them if he picked up the gun. And he couldn't protect them if he put down the gun. After Shushi left, the atmosphere was very quiet. Many people even began to sob softly. Seeing this, Asuma looked at Mizuki and said, "Mizuki, I thought you would desperately follow him." Mizuki glanced at him. "Idiot. Me staying in the village is the best help to Garashi." "Who are you calling an idiot?" Asuma stared and suddenly paused. "Wait, staying in the village is the best help to Garashi? What do you mean?" "Garashi will come back," Mizuki said firmly. "Before he comes back, I will manage everything in the village for him." Manage? People are forgetful. Didn't Danzo intend to erase Garashi's traces and eliminate his influence through time? As long as I stay in the village, this kind of thing will never happen. Hearing him say this, everyone was excited. Yes, we can help Garashi if we stay in the village. It's decided, let Danzo know our strength. Chapter 322. In Yunnan Village. What? Mokutan? AI slammed the table and stood up. Looking at the platform in disbelief, he asked, "You mean the first Hokages would release?" "Yes." Tsutai looked worried. Moreover, it is said that after Shimizu Garashi used Mokutan, he grabbed the Kyuubi with one hand and beat him up. Listening to him, the other ninjas couldn't believe it. Is Mokutan really that powerful? Maybe the Kyuubi is not as strong as we thought. At this time, Killer Bee shook his head. Hachi said that the Ichibi and the Nanabai together are not necessarily Kyuubi's opponent. Tsutai also said, their third Naruto only lasted a few minutes in front of the Kyuubi. The room suddenly became quiet, and only the sound of everyone swallowing their saliva could be heard. Isn't this too exaggerated? Is there another god of ninjas in Konoha? Everyone felt a wave of despair. This kind of strength was already beyond their imagination. As expected of him, AI wasn't depressed. After the shock, his eyes bloomed with a fiery light. With such an opponent, I can't relax for a moment. Seeing Reikage like this, everyone cheered up. Yes, there is nothing to be afraid of. Yes, Garashi Sama is not the kind of person who destroys the peace. The corner of Tsutai's eyes twitched. Even Lord Shushi is being addressed as such? So when you say there is nothing to be afraid of, you mean there is nothing to be afraid of? Just when Tsutai was worried about the future of Yunnan, a Chunin ran in with a shocked expression. Reikage-sama, there is big news from Woodleaf. What big news? AI suddenly gossiped. Is Shimizu's surname Senju? Oh, is he Tsunade's illegitimate son? Tsutai's eyebrows twitched. Reikage-sama, if you slander people like this, they will rush to Yunnan and beat you up. The ninja who came to report said in a trembling voice. The fourth generation Naruto has resigned, and the new Jonin Naruto is said to be Shimura Danzo. What? AI's eyes widened. What about Shimizu Garashi? It is said that he and Minato were sent on a secret mission. AI scratched his head with a confused look. What the hell is Konoha doing? Do you think you're too strong, and take the initiative to weaken yourself? Rock Crypsis Village. What escape? Shimizu Garashi, that guy. Inoki was in a trance, inexplicably recalling the fiasco he suffered in front of Madara. And what release was the power that defeated Madara? The surrounding people were also shocked. The nine-tailed beast that defeated the third Naruto was easily taken down by that guy. Is he already that strong? Shimizu Garashi, is that guy really human? That man shouldn't be the reincarnation of Kami, right? In the midst of these shocked voices, Hokage asked puzzledly, what is Woodleaf thinking? He wants to make someone like Danzo Naruto. Is it because of the warning they sent? Inoki pondered. Father, what's the warning? Kitsuchi asked. Behind the Kyuubi's chaos, someone secretly attacked Naruto and tried to control Woodleaf by manipulating him. Inoki said in a deep voice, therefore, the third Naruto sent a warning to us to be careful of the shadows in the dark. The fourth Naruto can fly Thunder God. It's not a wise choice to make him a target. Hokage sneered. If you ask me, this is just a fig leaf to hide the truth. Anyway, we can at least breathe a sigh of relief. Yes, just the thought of standing opposite Qingshui Shushi is enough to make me tremble in despair. San Cripsis Village. It's really shocking. Looking at the information in his hand, Raza muttered to himself. Yes, it's really shocking. The Jonin on the side agreed and then sighed. I just didn't expect that Sama would lose to that kind of person. Lost. Raza shook his head slightly. How do you know that he lost? Isn't the result obvious? The Jonin who spoke was puzzled. Sama was forced to leave, and Shimura Danzo succeeded. According to the spy I placed in Woodleaf. Huh. Several Jonins looked at him in surprise. Kazakage-sama, didn't you call Sushi-sama your brother? How can you turn around and plant spies in Konoha? Raza's face stiffened, and he said with a straight face. Don't worry about these details. In short, from the tone of the spy's report, his admiration for Garashi and his disgust for Danzo has reached the point where he can't hide it. He mentioned several times that Woodleaf is the lighthouse of human civilization, and the leader must be a hero like Garashi. He even took the initiative to suggest that I break off relations with Woodleaf and start a war, so as to force Woodleaf to recall Garashi. To be honest, I suspect that he's already a member of Woodleaf. Ahem. Everyone coughed crazily. They were the spies sent by San Cripsis. How could their subjective emotions be so serious? As a spy, this was completely unqualified. Even the spy we sent was infected by his personality charm. Can you imagine how many people in Woodleaf are crazy about him? Raza sighed with emotion. Everyone looked at each other. They really didn't expect that a person's personality charm could be so great to this extent. In this case, if Danzo can lead Woodleaf to prosperity, it's fine, but as long as there's a problem. Raza said in a low voice, the problem will be infinitely magnified, and then the turbulent public will directly overthrow him. Kirin Village. Humph. Shimizu Garashi, that guy, also has such a day. Hey. He certainly didn't think that he would be driven away by the village he loves. Yagura said coldly in the midst of these gloating voices. That's enough. Everyone suddenly became silent. After becoming the Mizukichi, Yagura became more powerful, but his personality also seemed to have changed a little. After several more cruel incidents, even if Yagura's experience as the Mizukichi was still shallow, no one dared to oppose him. I know that you are hostile to him, but you still need to have the most basic respect for the strong. Otherwise, saying these things behind his back will only expose your weakness. Everyone was silent and asked themselves. They were actually mocking him to hide the fear in their hearts. As the one with the deepest hatred for Kirin, they were indeed afraid. They were afraid that he would rush to the village and start a massacre. That man has this kind of strength. Especially Fugu. As the only one left of the 7 swordsmen, his fear of Shimizu Garashi has long been deep in his bones. Therefore he was very worried. Mizukichi-sama, in case Shimizu Garashi thinks that this is our revenge, we should quickly issue a statement saying that this incident has nothing to do with us. Yagura's mouth twitched. This idiot thinks that he didn't expose enough? Don't worry about Woodleaf from today on. Kirin will be completely closed. Chapter 323. After the meeting was over, Yagura returned to his room with a blank expression. There were already 2 people waiting for him. Master. Looking at Yagura, Black Zetsu chuckled. Madara-sama, you really have a bad taste. Bordered Soil's eyes were calm. If he enslaved the Mizukichi, he would have some pleasure. But Yagura was just a convenient tool for him. Seeing Bordered Soil's indifference, Black Zetsu joked. You just asked the Mizukichi to stop their discussion. Is it because you still have feelings for the past? After all, Senpai avenged Rin, and he's different from those 2. Bordered Soil's voice was indifferent, as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. However, you don't have to worry. I have already cut off all feelings. That's great. That's so sad. You've been talking too much nonsense recently. Bordered Soil looked at him coldly, and then asked. How is Senpai's strength compared to your body? Black Zetsu pretended to think for a moment. If it's his body in the Battle of the Valley of the End, it should be similar to him. After all, He's still too young now, and he can't compare to Hashirama in his heyday. Bordered Soil's eyes were surprised. Is Madara admitting that he's not as good as Hashirama? However, when he thought about how Madara always talked about Hashirama, he didn't feel strange. Seeing Bordered Soil's strange eyes, Black Zetsu's heart thumped. He thought that his passerby evaluation was inconsistent with his identity as Madara's consciousness, which made Bordered Soil suspicious, so he quickly remedied. Of course, this is just the body in the Battle of the Valley of the End. If it's resurrected in its heyday, with the Rinnegan, that guy can't compare with it at all. Bordered Soil nodded gently. With Senpai's strength, he will undoubtedly be the biggest obstacle to our plan. Black Zetsu's eyes lit up. Have you already thought of a way to get rid of him? Idiot! Bordered Soil despised him. So many precedents haven't made you understand that the conspiracy against Senpai will only backfire on you? Then what do you mean? Black Zu's eyes twitched. Being looked down upon by others was one thing, but being looked down upon by the Bordered Soil was something he couldn't accept. Of course I'll take the initiative to avoid it, Bordered Soil said matter-of-factly. In the future, as long as Senior sets foot in a place, we won't get involved. So this is your idea? Black Zu's eyes twitched, but he had to admit it was the best idea. Could it be that I have the same IQ level as Bordered Soil? Just as Black Zu was doubting his life, he heard Bordered Soil say, "How is the negotiation with Yahiko?" Black Zetsu came back to his senses and said in a low voice, "Humph, that guy still doesn't trust us, and is only willing to cooperate with us within a certain range." Bordered Soil pondered for a moment and said coldly, "Is it possible to kill him?" Black Zetsu shook his head. Nagato is now beginning to face the power of Rinnegan. It's hard to guarantee that he won't notice some small movements. If that's the case, then we'll take the initiative to join him. Take the initiative to join? Bordered Soil said. Join the Akatsuki, then lead them to the planned path under the name of the Akatsuki. As expected of Madara-sama, I understand. Half a month later in Takajin. I didn't expect that Garashi-sama would encounter such a thing. Yeah, I really didn't expect it. The leader of the Waterfall Village, Shigaya, and the Nanabai's Jinchuriki Kana were talking with emotion. Because of the geographical location of the Waterfall Village, what happened half a month ago can be regarded as news to them. In these discussions, Shibuya suddenly looked at Shizuki. Speaking of Garashi Shizuki, is that guy willing to talk? Shizuki shook her head slightly. He still refuses to talk. This is normal. Kana sighed. For Kakuzu-senpai, the secret technique is his life-saving talisman. But we don't have time to wait any longer. Shibuya frowned. Several ninja villages heard about Kakuzu from somewhere, claiming that their ninjas were assassinated by Kakuzu. They want us to hand over Kakuzu's head as soon as possible to give them an explanation. Although Takajin's geographical location is hidden, they still have to contact the outside world. Unless they are completely self-sufficient, they can't ignore these rumors. That's indeed a bit troublesome. Kana looked dignified. Why don't we just kill them directly? Anyway, we've been living well without the secret technique for so many years. Absolutely not. Shizuki shouted loudly. Shizuki, you. Shibuya looked at her doubtfully. Ha ha ha. Shizuki laughed twice. I mean, the secret technique is a precious property created by our ancestors. How can we give it up so easily? That's true. Shibuya argued. But we can't completely ignore the warnings of other villages. Well, let's give him 3 more days. Kana suggested. In these 3 days, we can't be as gentle as before. We have to use the cruelest punishment to force him to tell us the secret technique. Well, that's it. Seeing Shizuki's expression change slightly, Shibuya took the initiative to comfort her. Don't worry about it. Kana isn't saying that there's a problem with the way you were in charge of guarding Kakuzu. But in special times, we can only use some special means. Shizuki smiled reluctantly. Haha, I understand. Night. Shizuki sneaked out of her room and quietly came to the place where Kakuzu was being held, then knocked out the guard. In the darkness, Kakuzu suddenly opened his eyes. Why are you here? Did something happen? Shizuki lowered her voice. Several ninja villages heard about you from somewhere, and asked their leader to kill you quickly to give an explanation to their ninjas, who were assassinated by you. I didn't expect that there would still be people thinking about me in prison. What an honor. Don't talk nonsense. Shizuki's breathing was a little rapid. How is the seal on your body? It's still a lot to go. Kakuzu's expression was calm. Who do you think sealed me? His seal isn't that easy to break. That's right. Shizuki nodded in agreement. I heard that the Kyubi was easily suppressed by Shimizu Garashi with Mokutan. What? Kakuzu's calm face broke in a second. Kyubi? Mokutan? What happened during this time? Keep your voice down. Shizuki warned, and then explained in a low voice. It seems that some time ago, someone attacked with Leaf and released the Kyubi. As a result, Shimizu Garashi used Mokutan to defeat it. Mokutan? Kakuzu's eyes were deep as if he was immersed in memories. It's indeed a very powerful force. Shizuki was taken aback and couldn't help but ask. I heard that you assassinated the first Naruto. How was it? Is Mokutan really that strong? Of course it's strong. Kakuzu sighed. After all, it's a force that can defeat me. Chapter 324. Defeating you? What's so strange about that? Shueyin complained in her heart, but she didn't intend to provoke him. Instead, she whispered, before they do anything, hurry up and teach me the rest of the Earth's grudge. Teach you? Kakuzu sneered. I don't believe that you'll take me out after learning all the contents. Then what do you want? Shueyin said irritably. Take me out of here first. Then we'll talk about our business. Kakuzu said in a deep voice. Anyway, you poisoned me. You haven't unlocked the seal yet? Shueyin was surprised. It's just that I haven't unlocked it completely, so it's hard to fight. Kakuzu explained. He originally wanted to wait until all the seals were unlocked before escaping, but the current situation couldn't be delayed any longer. Shueyin's face was gloomy and uncertain, but in the end greed prevailed. Of course, this was also because he believed that he was the one who poisoned him. Thinking of this, Shueyin no longer hesitated. She took out the key and walked into the cell to unlock Kakuzu's chains. In order to prevent Kakuzu from making any hand or foot seals, they actually tied him up in a big circle. Just as Shueyin unlocked Kakuzu's chains, an angry voice sounded behind him. Shueyin, what are you doing? Shueyin's body trembled, and she looked back stiffly, only to see Shibuya and Song-air standing side by side. Ha. I was worried that Kakuzu would escape, so I unlocked the chains to make sure. Then why did you beat all the guards? This, mainly because I was afraid that they would misunderstand my actions. You, don't talk nonsense with him. Song-air pulled Shibuya and said, let's take them down first. I didn't want to fight with you. Why do you have to force me? Shueyin sighed. Kakuzu, let's go together. Kakuzu. Only then did Shueyin realize that Kakuzu, who was standing behind her, had turned into a clay statue at some point. In the cold weather, Shueyin's whole body was trembling. Could this world still be good? Looking at the two murderous people, Shueyin's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. If I say that this is a misunderstanding, would you believe me? A few minutes later, the scene was a mess. A corpse lay quietly on the ground. In the distance, two figures walked back in a sorry state. Damn it, he still got away. Shigaya was unwilling to give up. I didn't expect that Kakuzu, whose seal hasn't been completely broken, would still have such strength. Shiener's expression was also very ugly. Because they were in the village, he did not dare to transform into a tailed beast, which gave the other party a chance to escape. This is really troublesome. It's all because of that bastard Shueyin. Shibuya cursed and kicked Shueyin. However, the corpse that was kicked by him turned into white mist and dissipated with a bang. Wait, that's impossible. Shigaya's eyes widened. I clearly killed him. It seems that he obtained a part of Earth's grudge from Kakuzu, Shiener guessed. Shinga's expression turned ugly. Damn it. Shueyin knows too much about the village's secrets. We need to find him as soon as possible. She nodded. Gather all the censor ninjas in the village, and find Shueyin as soon as possible. In the darkness, Shueyan clutched her chest as she awkwardly moved forward in the wilderness. Damn it! How dare you treat me like this? Shingu Xian'er. I will definitely come back for revenge. Shueyan's eyes were filled with resentment. And that bastard Kakuzu, he actually left me behind and ran away alone. Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. But at this moment, a long shadow under the moonlight shone at his feet. Shueyan looked up and saw a mysterious man wearing a Shinigami mask standing in front of her. Who are you? Shueyan instinctively felt a sense of fear as he looked at the masked man in front of him. However, the other party did not seem to intend to talk to him. A strange light flashed in his eyes, and he lost consciousness and stood still. Leak the news to the ninja village that has a grudge against Kakuzu, and then guide the guards to find the right time to report to Shingu. Finally, you fell into my hands. Garashi sighed inwardly. In order to make the fake news that he intended to send appear in the ninja world with a reasonable explanation, he really put in a lot of effort. As for Kakuzu who escaped, he didn't care. It just gave him a reason to make a move on his next target. A few days later, in the Rock Crypsis village, in the streets and alleys, many ninjas who returned from their missions were talking with great interest. Hey, have you heard? What? It's the secret treasure about Takajin that has been circulating in the ninja world these days. I also heard about it. It is said that Takajin's betrayal deliberately leaked the secrets of the village in order to resist Takajin's pursuit, revealing the entrance and the secret treasure of the village. Tell me about it. What kind of secret treasure is it? Hey, don't worry, let's start with another thing. You should have heard that Takajin has the Nanabai Jinchuriki, right? Yeah, what's wrong? Don't you think it's strange that Takajin has a bijou? You know, even the 5 great ninja villages have a headache when a bijou goes on a rampage. That's true. Didn't Wood Leaf cause a lot of trouble when the QB went on a rampage some time ago? Takajin is a small ninja village. The reason why they don't worry about the bijou going on a rampage is because they have a secret treasure called Hero's Water. Really? Can this Hero's Water suppress the bijou? I don't know if it's true or not, but judging from the fact that Takajin has the Nanabai, I think it's quite reliable. Beside them, Han walked by with a dignified face. This was the 4th time he heard similar news today. As a Jinchuriki, he couldn't ignore it. A treasure that can suppress the bijou? Han was a little tempted. After the war, Rashi left Rock Crypsis again and began to practice asceticism. Inoki became too cautious after that incident. He almost didn't step out of Rock Crypsis. As for Kitsuchi, although he didn't become depressed after losing his arm, the impact of losing an arm is too great for a ninja. Therefore, in Han's view, the future of Rock Crypsis can only rely on him. If I can completely master the power of the Gobi, the pressure on Rock Crypsis can be reduced a little. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated and went directly to Inoki. Sachikage office. Should I also write a series of books about the will of rock? Inoki was struggling when a voice came from outside. Sachikage-sama, Han-sama came to see you. Han. Inoki tidied up the table. Let him in. Han came in and went straight to the point. Sachikage-sama. Have you heard about Takajin's Water of Hero? Inoki nodded slightly. You mean the Water of Hero can suppress the bijou? As at Sachikage, he was naturally more informed than Han. Han nodded again and again. Sachikage-sama, is this true? Inoki frowned. To be honest, I'm not very clear. Takajin has always been closed, and there is relatively little communication with the outside world. There is not much information about them. Is that so? Han was depressed at first, but then his spirit was refreshed. Anyway, let's go and grab the Water of Hero first. Do we have to fight? Inoki thought calmly. Even if the other party is just a small village, he is cautious and doesn't want to cause more trouble. There is no need to fight. Han proposed. I heard that Takajin also escaped from a renegade ninja named Kakuzu, who is a famous bounty ninja. At that time, we will ask Takajin to give us an explanation. If they can't hand over the person, we will ask them to hand over the Water of Hero as compensation. Is that so? Seeing Inoki was still hesitating, Han urged again. The nearest big ninja village to Takajin is us and Woodleaf recently had a QB incident. If we don't hurry, they will beat us to it. Seeing that Han said this, Inoki nodded and said, then you take a team of ninjas to negotiate with Takajin. Remember, try to solve it peacefully. Chapter 325. Takajin Village. Haven't you found him yet? Shigaya asked with a gloomy face. Actually, it's useless to find him now. Kana sighed. He's already told us all the ways to enter the village. But if we can catch him, Shigaya said unwillingly, at least we can make him stand up and explain the scam of the hero's water. It's useless. Do you think others will believe him? Kana shook her head. Shigaya was silent for a moment, then angrily punched through the wall. Damn bastard. Pray that I don't catch you. At this moment, a Chunin ran over with a panicked expression and reported, Shigaya-sama, bad news, bad news. Calm down, what's going on? It's Rock Crypsis. Rock Crypsis brought a lot of people to our village. Shigaya and Kana looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. After thinking for a moment, Shigaya quickly made a decision. Call all the ninjas in the village. Some of them will come with me to greet the guests of Rock Crypsis, and the others, lead the villagers to the shelter. Yes, at the edge of the lake. One by one, Rock Crypsis ninjas emerged from under the lake. Some scattered Takajin ninjas were on guard in the distance, not daring to come forward. And the people of Rock Crypsis didn't care about them, commenting on the surrounding scenery, as if they were the masters of the village. I didn't expect the entrance to Takajin to be under the lake. No wonder no one has found it for so many years. The scenery here looks beautiful. That giant tree in the center is the sacred tree that produces the hero's water according to the traitor ninja, right? It's really huge. In the midst of these discussions, Shigaya and Kana walked over from a distance with some ninjas. The surrounding Takajin ninjas quickly gathered, as if they had found their backbone. Friends of Rock Crypsis, welcome to Takajin. Although Shigaya was very dissatisfied with the Rock Crypsis ninjas trespassing, he still greeted them with a smile. Haha, the Waterfall Country and the Earth Country are neighbors. Speaking of which, our two villages should be considered neighbors. Han laughed heartily. After so many years, this is the first time I've visited a neighbor. How rude of me. Of course not, Shigaya said with a fake smile. It's mainly because we like peace and quiet. You like peace and quiet? Sorry for disturbing you. Of course not. But are you really just here as guests today? Actually, there are still some official matters, Han said in a deep voice. We heard that your village captured the traitor ninja Kakuzu, and many of our Rock Crypsis ninjas were assassinated by him. In order to let those souls rest in peace, I hope that your village can kill that traitor ninja. Truly, whatever he was afraid of would come true. Shibuya felt a headache coming on when he heard Seiji's request. Where was he supposed to find even a single Seiji? Shibuya sighed and had an ashamed expression. I'm sorry. We weren't able to keep watch and allowed Kakuzu to escape. He escaped. Why did I hear that you caught him a long time ago? You didn't deal with him for such a long time, and even let him escape. I can't help but suspect your motives. That's because it can't be that the ninja named Kakuzu isn't a traitor ninja at all, but a cover that you deliberately sent to collect funds. Han was getting better and better. I was wondering why a lone ninja like him would always do bounty missions. What's the point of having so much money? Now it seems that the funds he collected through the bounty missions were all used to support your village. There's no such thing. Shibuya naturally couldn't just stand by and watch Han slander him, so he said forcefully, 50 years ago, Kakuzu killed all the jonins in our village and escaped. This hatred means that he can't be one of us. You Takajin have always been isolated from the rest of the world, and it was something that happened 50 years ago. There's no way to verify it. How do I know if this is an excuse you deliberately released? Shibuya's expression was solemn. He knew that today's matter might not be resolved peacefully. Then what do you want? How about this? First, we'll use your Takajin's treasure as collateral. After you catch Kakuzu, we'll return the treasure to you. Han said sincerely, sorry, but we Takajin don't have any treasures. Shibuya decisively refused. Sigh. It seems that you Takajin really don't have any sincerity. Han sighed. Besides, since you can lie to me about this matter, then what you said about Kakuzu was most likely a lie as well. Shibuya was also a little angry. I already said that Kakuzu's matter has nothing to do with us. He's a traitor ninja, and we also want to catch him. Han spread out his hands. Then you should at least show us your sincerity, right? Shibuya took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. I'll send someone out to catch him. You can't just put on an act. Han smiled. You still need to have a collateral. Enough. Kinnear couldn't stand it anymore. Whether we catch Kakuzu or not, and how we catch him, these are the internal affairs of Takajin. Rock Crypsis doesn't need to comment on this. You can't say that. That ninja named Kakuzu killed so many people. Who knows if you're the one who ordered him to do so? If everyone gives the ninjas in the village the title of traitor ninja, and then let them come out to do evil, then wouldn't the ninja world be in chaos? Then what exactly do you want? Didn't I say it already? Using treasures as collateral, Han said with a smile. If you want me to say it clearly, then it's Takajin's hero's water. No. Shibuya firmly refused. Change your conditions. Since you refuse the kindness of Rock Crypsis, Han's voice was serious. For the peace of the ninja world, I can only impose sanctions on you on behalf of the 5 major countries. If you want to rob us, just say it. Kinnear said disdainfully, do you need to make so many excuses? With that said, Shibuya also gave up on his fantasy. Drive these invaders out of Takajin. Don't think that you can compete with us just because you have a Jinchuriki. Han directly transformed into his half-tailed beast form. You're still far from that. You're too arrogant. Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you're from the 5 major countries? Kinnear also transformed into her half-tailed beast form. Don't underestimate us, Takajin. The brief confrontation between the 2 Jinchuriki stirred up huge waves, more than 10 meters high on the lake, forcing the ninjas on both sides to constantly retreat. They're finally fighting. In the distance, Garashi sat on a tree and watched the battle with interest. At that time in Rock Crypsis village, Han could hear the corresponding discussions no matter where he went. Naturally, it was his doing. In fact, Han's first thought of using Kakuzu as an excuse was more or less influenced by those discussions. However, this isn't enough. I need to add more fuel to the fire. Chapter 326. Because of Tsuchikage-sama's warning, Rock Crypsis didn't go all out. On the other hand, Takajin's side, because the location of the battle was their own village, they were more restrained. This made it so that the 2 sides fought for a few minutes without any casualties. The only ones who got angry were Han and Song, the 2 Jinchuriki. Because of the tailed beast in their body, their emotions were somewhat affected. Of course, it was still within the scope of restraint. Stop it. Songer's scarlet pupils flashed with pride. Your own strength is indeed much stronger than mine, but the cooperation between you and your tailed beast is too poor. It's impossible to defeat me at this level. Humph. Don't be happy too early. Han was angry, but he was more convinced and looking forward to the effect of the hero water. Even an ordinary jonin, like the other side with the hero water, can be promoted to the point where he can compete with him. Then with the hero water, can he stand at the peak of the Jinchuriki? At this moment, a Takajin suddenly exclaimed. It's the traitor Shueyan. Wait, is the bottle in his hand? Xian'er and Han both turned their heads to look, only to see a person hugging a bottle full of water on the branch of the divine tree, sneaking around. I was discovered. Shueyan was shocked and no longer hid. She hugged the bottle and ran away as if her life depended on it. She planned to go around them and escape from the bottom of the lake. Haha, you idiots can continue to fight. The hero's water is mine. Damn it. You traitor dared to come back. Xian'er abandoned Han and rushed toward Shueyan with all his strength. How dare you let us Rock Crypsis attract the firepower for you? Han was also angry and jumped into the lake to swim toward Shueyan. The 2 Jinchuriki, one flying and one swimming. The distance between them and Shueyan was rapidly shrinking. However, flying is still faster than swimming. Seeing that Xian was about to catch up, Han directly punched the lake, stirring up a water cannon shot toward Xian. Although this attack was easily avoided by Xian, it was delayed for some time, and Han caught up with it. This bastard! Xian was not to be outdone, and attacked back with a scale powder attack. In the next few seconds, the two of them kept trying to trip each other up. Suddenly a voice said, "Oh no, he's going to escape into the lake." The two people who were trying to trip each other came back to their senses. Seeing that Shuiyan was about to escape, Xian directly condensed chakra into a big hand to grab him. Xian followed suit, and the chakra that lingered around her body also condensed into a big hand to grab at Yi Shiwen. The two chakra palms collided with each other, erupting with an incomparably terrifying power. Strong winds blew, and the waves surged to the sky, as if they were going to flip the entire lake over. Oh no! Seeing this, the two of them knew that things weren't going well. They didn't have the mood to admire their masterpiece at all. Ignoring the fact that the aftershocks had yet to subside, they forcefully charged into the waves. However, other than a trace of blood, nothing else could be seen in the wave. Naturally, no one cared about Shuiyan's life or death. However, the disappearance of the bottle made their hearts turn cold. The bottle containing the hero's water was broken? Han sighed, feeling that his efforts were in vain. At this time, a powerful aura of chakra suddenly erupted from his side. "Damn Rock Crypsis, I want you to pay the price." Han turned his head, and saw that the other side had already transformed into the complete state enrich. "Calm down, this is just a misunderstanding." However, Xian couldn't hear any explanation at all. Shuiyan's defection and Kakuzu's escape already made him angry. Now Rock Crypsis is making trouble for no reason, and caused them to lose the hero's water, which made him furious to the extreme. Roar! Xian completely lost his mind in rage, and chased after Han to beat him. Although he knew that he was in the wrong, the tailed beast in Han's body didn't think so. He only knew that he was being chased and beaten by the Nanabai. For Gobi, he can ignore ordinary battles, but in a battle between Jinchuriki, he will never allow his vessel to be suppressed. The power of the tailed beast in his body continued to boil, and Han was gradually affected. Coupled with Xian's violence in the outside world, Han finally completely entered the complete state. Seeing the two-tailed beasts fighting in the village, Shigaya was dizzy and almost fainted. His Takajin village? After this battle, how can the village live? No, what should be considered now is how to survive. The Rock Crypsis side was also desperate. The two Jinchuriki went berserk at the same time, and the aftermath of the battle may wipe them out. Roar! Roar! The Nanabai and Gobi were getting more and more excited, and finally, they even planned to use Baijidama. Seeing the giant black ball condensing in the mouths of the two-tailed beasts, the ninjas on both sides burst into tears. "I'm dead. I'm dead for sure. Takajin is so small. Even the aftermath of the collision of Baijidama can kill them. We shouldn't have come today. Shinosama, please wake up quickly. God, save us." As if a god heard their prayers, in the desperate and horrified eyes of everyone, a tall figure suddenly appeared between the two-tailed beasts. Space-time barrier. At the moment when the two Baijidama were about to collide, the space-time barrier swallowed them together. The scene was quiet for a moment, and then burst into cheers that reached the sky. "Great, we're saved. That seems to be Garashi-sama. If it's Garashi-sama, he should be able to suppress their battle, right?" Although there was a lot of tension between the Rock Shinobis and Shui, at this time, even the Rock Shinobis were cheering loudly, as if they had just survived a disaster. The two-tailed beasts were confused for a moment. Staring at each other, they didn't understand where their big Baijidama went. But soon, the two-tailed beasts rushed towards each other regardless. Garashi stood calmly between the two-tailed beasts, seemingly planning to stop them with his own strength. The ninjas of both sides looked at this scene nervously. Although they heard that Garashi easily suppressed the Kyuubi, they didn't see it with their own eyes. And now the two-tailed beasts are going berserk. In their mind, two-tailed beasts are always more powerful than one, right? In this regard, Garashi just clasped his hands together. Sage method would release. True thousand hands. Although using this method to deal with the Gobi and Nanabai is a bit too much. In order to leave the ninjas of both sides with the impression that he is invincible, Garashi spared no effort. A giant Buddha statue that was as big as the divine wood of the lake appeared under Shushi's feet. It controlled its arms and picked up the two-tailed beasts as if they were chickens. No matter how the two-tailed beasts struggled, they couldn't shake the Buddha statue at all. Even the Baijidama they condensed under their rage disappeared because of the absorption of chakra. This is the good thing about wood release. I can absorb their chakra openly. Garashi collected the chakra of the two-tailed beasts, but he still had time to think. The ninjas of both sides looked at this scene in shock. Their jaws almost fell to the ground. Many ninjas even felt their legs go soft, as if they were worshipping a miracle. You know, those are tailed beasts. In the eyes of the world, tailed beasts are more terrible than natural disasters. But in the hands of the other party, they are no different from chickens. Such a powerful tailed beast, but he just grabbed it lightly. Our rock Cripses fought with such a terrible enemy before. Gulp. Fortunately, the war ended early, otherwise, rock Cripses would be gone. After the chakra was absorbed, Han woke up from his berserk state. Looking at the godlike Garashi, and the Nanabai who was also in the hands of the Buddha statue, he suddenly doubted his purpose. What the hell am I doing? Even if I can completely master the power of tailed beasts, what's the use in front of such a monster? Thinking of this, the ambitious Jinchuriki was hit into a salted fish mode. Revitalize rock Cripsis? Just lie down. Chapter 327. Compared to Han, Sangha was even more shocked. He couldn't imagine how a human could be so powerful. If he could capture them with just 2 arms, wouldn't he be able to capture hundreds of tailed beasts with his other arms? When he thought about how he and his leader wanted to show off their strength in front of the other party, he felt that it was ridiculous. At this time, Garashi's voice came from the top of the Buddha statue. Can the two of you have a quiet talk now? Hearing Garashi's voice, Han's face turned black. You already have us in your hands. Do you think we dare not to be quiet? Can you put us down first? It was really embarrassing to be watched like a monkey. Of course you can. However, if you continue to act recklessly, I will still arrest you. After that, Garashi controlled the Buddha statue to release its palm and throw the two of them down. When they returned to the ground, the two of them glared at each other again. However, considering that Garashi was present, they resisted the urge to attack. Seeing this, Garashi comforted them. Let's sit down and talk slowly. I don't want to talk to the intruder who destroyed the hero water. Sangha glared at Han. Although he was a little guilty, Han didn't show his fear at this time. If you didn't fight with me, would the bottle have been broken? Sangha was so angry that he laughed. That was originally Takujin's thing. You should be the one fighting with me. That's hard to say. Who knows if the hero water was developed by you guys using the bounty that Kakuzu sent back. If you ask me, the hero water should be identified as a suspicious stolen goods. Bullshit. Why are you scolding people? I'm not scolding people. You. Seeing that the two of them were about to start scolding each other again, Garashi quickly became the peacemaker. As a passerby, why don't I say a few words? Han and Sangha were silent. If you want to speak, do you think we dare to stop you? First of all, Mr. Han, regarding your claim that Takujin instigated Kakuzu, do you have any evidence? Han stammered. How? How can I have evidence for this kind of thing? Yeah, you don't have any evidence, but you made Takujin lose the hero's water. Everyone saw it. Garashi suggested. So, I think you should compensate for this matter first, and then investigate whether there is any connection between Kakuzu and Takujin. Deal with these two matters separately. Han was depressed, but Garashi's way of handling things was indeed flawless. Next is Sir Xanthium. Garashi looked at the triumphant Xian heir. In any case, it's your dereliction of duty to let a wanted criminal like Kakuzu escape. If Kakuzu commits another crime in the future, the other ninja villages will definitely find you. Hearing this, Xanthium's face was bitter. Indeed, They have an inescapable responsibility in this matter. Moreover, Shueyan revealed the matter of the hero's water. Even if there is no rock crypsis, Takajin will be coveted and harassed in the future. In addition, Mr. Shigani said that the hero's water is a double-edged sword for Takajin. It may not be a bad thing that it was destroyed this time. So can't you ask rock crypsis for less compensation? Xanthium was somewhat dissatisfied with this point, but just as he was about to argue, his face changed slightly. Without waiting for him to speak, Shigani walked over. Garashi, Sama's words are very reasonable, we agree. Han, who was still thinking about how to find some evidence to get the compensation, saw that they have already reached this point. He no longer thought about it. Good. I also agree to the compensation. While speaking, Han was secretly sighing in his heart. He was worried that Shimizu Garashi would use the rock crypsis as a pretext to make a fuss. But he didn't expect that the other party really did it from the perspective of peace in the ninja world. This kind of tolerance is indeed admirable. With such a sigh, Han waved his hand and said, "Let's go." The rock crypsis ninjas who received the order hurriedly followed. In any case, the pressure of the huge Buddha statue was too great. Shigani didn't let anyone stop them. With Garashi as a witness, he didn't worry that the other party would refuse. After all the rock crypsis ninjas left, Shigani and Xanthium eagerly asked, "Garashi, Sama, what you said just now?" Garashi coughed twice and interrupted, "Let's talk somewhere else." The two suppressed their eagerness and took Garashi to a secret room and asked, "Garashi, Sama, is what you said before true?" "Wait a moment." Garashi smiled and used the flying thunder god, and disappeared in front of the two. The next moment, he reappeared with a bottle in his hand. Seeing the bottle, both of them were excited. "It's really the hero's water." "Garashi-sama, thank you so much." Garashi explained. "In fact, I arrived when you and the rock crypsis were fighting, but I didn't know whether to go out or not. After all, my identity is a bit sensitive to the rock crypsis. Later, seeing that your fight might destroy the hero's water, I sent the flying thunder god Jutsu from the water to Shuyan's side. At the moment when your chakra broke out, I used the flying thunder god Jutsu to teleport and took the hero's water away. However, I knew that the hero's water would bring you trouble, so I thought that the hero's water would take this opportunity to disappear from the shinobi world and return it to you after you finish fighting, but I didn't expect that you would fight so fiercely." Kinnear blushed with shame. He was indeed impulsive, and almost destroyed Takajin. Shigaya was ashamed and moved. "We lost the horn Garashi-sama, but Garashi-sama not only didn't blame us, but also helped us so much. I don't know how to thank you." Garashi was surprised. It wasn't easy to catch it. "Aren't you thinking too much?" Kinnear scolded. "Those idiots rock crypsis. They didn't expect that the hero's water would return to us in the end." Garashi coughed twice. "Don't tell anyone." "I know." Kinnear nodded again and again. "If the news of the hero's water spreads, we will be the unlucky ones." Shigaya took a small bottle, poured out some of the hero's water, and then solemnly handed the small bottle to Garashi. "Garashi-sama, we Takajin can't come up with a decent gift, so we can only use this to express our gratitude." "How can this be?" Garashi refused again and again. "The name Hero's Water, no one is more suitable for its owner than Garashi-sama." Shigaya said, "Yes, Garashi-sama, please accept it." Kinnear also urged on the side. "The sacred tree produces the hero's water every 100 years, and now there are only 10 years until the next one. This hero's water is enough for us." "In that case," Garashi looked embarrassed. "Then I will accept it." Seeing that Garashi finally agreed to accept the gift, Shigaya and Kinnear nodded with satisfaction. "That's right." Chapter 328. After settling the matter with Takajin, even with Garashi's state of mind, he could not help but feel excited. Finally, the collection of chakra from 1 to 9 tails was complete. A full 5 years, Garashi sighed softly. If he pursued speed, he could have completed this plan a few years earlier. But he had always been very patient. In order to not be discovered, this little bit of time was completely worth it. After sighing, Garashi used earth release, earth diving technique to burrow deep into the ground. He opened up a small room thousands of meters underground and set up various enchantments around it. Then, he carefully took out the chakra that he had collected. There seemed to be a strange attraction between the 9 chakra. After appearing in this small space, they were pulled towards one direction. Is it because these chakra have no consciousness and are driven by instinct to return to the origin? Garashi looked at this scene with a little surprise. But this saves me a lot of effort to merge them. Just like Azura and Indra reincarnated as chakra, the sage of the 6 paths drifted in the world as chakra. Chakra could have the consciousness and instinct of the main body. Under Shueishi's observation, the fusion of these tailed beasts' chakra was fine at the beginning, but later on, they began to conflict and repel each other, and there were even signs of instability. Seeing this, Garashi quickly separated the chakra that had been merged together. As expected, it's still missing the outer shell. Garashi shook his head slightly. He was not too surprised by this result. Other than the chakra from 1 to 9 tails, the Geto Mazo that was used to contain them was also very important. With his current strength, it would be easy for him to snatch the Geto Mazo from Nagato. However, he did not plan to do so. On one hand, he was afraid of the Geto Mazo. He was worried that there might be a secret door left behind by the 6 paths. Although it's just a groundless guess, for that kind of old monster, it can even be said to be the final winner of the Shinobi War. He will never underestimate it. In the face of an existence that could threaten his safety, he had never been afraid to assume the worst of others. His kindness was only for those who posed no threat. On the other hand, if he really did get the Geto Golem, the chakra that he put into the golem would most likely become a mini version of the Jubi. After all, the Jubi was Kagaya Otsutsuki's vessel. If Kagaya's consciousness were to descend, he couldn't guarantee that he could keep the Jubi's sovereignty in front of such an existence. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem to directly destroy the Jubi. He also left a secret door in the chakra. Therefore, what he wanted to complete was a body that was different from the Jubi. The problem now is to find a shell that can suppress chakra and prevent it from going berserk. Garashi gently retracted the 9 groups of chakra. In our world, the only thing that can compete with the power of Otsutsuki is the dragon vein. 3 nights later, Garashi rearranged the previous preparations at the location of the dragon vein in Lulan. Under his guidance, the dragon vein chakra that exuded a golden brilliance wrapped around the tailed beast chakra. Just like the last time, the fusion of the tailed beast chakra was halfway through, and the fusion appeared unstable again. However, this time, the fusion didn't explode in the unstable fusion. Instead, it was suppressed by the dragon vein chakra, and after having nowhere to vent, it was aggrieved and fused together. Yes, it can be done. Garashi's eyes flashed, and he suppressed his restless heart and continued to guide the dragon vein chakra. Finally, the tailed beast chakra seemed to have accepted their fate and no longer resisted, and all of them fused together. A moment later, a perfect body exuding a pale golden light appeared in front of Garashi. Garashi took a deep breath, pressed his right hand on the chest of the golden body, and absorbed the clone into his body. This feeling is really unprecedentedly strong. Garashi closed his eyes and felt his strength. After a while, he opened his eyes, and the 5 elements of water, fire, lightning, wind, and earth danced on the fingertips of his right hand. In this state, my attributes have been completed. No, it's far more than that. Garashi looked at his palm solemnly. Under the guidance of a certain force, the 5 elements were gradually fusing together. A powerful ability that surpassed the limits of the bloodline limit, or even the bloodline elimination limit, was born in his hands. As expected, there's still a huge gap between the bloodline elimination limit and the bloodline net. Garashi sighed. It wasn't that he understood the power of the 5 elements, but it was the instinct of this body, as if it was an innate talent. However, it was a pity that there were only 5 elements and no yin and yang. After all, tailed beasts were divided into yin and yang, and the chakra that he had collected naturally couldn't represent the entire tailed beast. But even so, Garashi was already satisfied. After all, he was just a fake version of Kyubi, and he was lucky enough to reach this level. Most importantly, after the transformation of Ryumyaka chakra, this power had nothing to do with Otsutsuki, and it belonged to him alone. My current strength may be comparable to Naruto and Sasuke, who were gifted by the Rakuto. Garashi secretly evaluated his current strength in his heart. It sounded powerful, but in fact, it was just a part of the power given by the dead Rakuto. Compared with Rakuto's heyday, he was still far behind. Compared with Otsutsuki Kagaya, who didn't have any children and didn't lose his power, he was even worse. And the Otsutsuki main family, who could make Otsutsuki Kagaya afraid, was even more beyond his imagination. Alas, I'm still too weak. With such a sigh, Garashi separated the golden body from his body again. In an instant, the extremely powerful power fell back to the bottom. It's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. After experiencing that kind of fascinating power, it's easy to get lost in falsehood. Fortunately, Garashi's mind was strong enough, and he quickly calmed down. As long as I integrate with this body, I can easily beat the entire shinobi world. Even if Uchiha Madara is resurrected in his heyday with Rinnegan, he won't be an opponent in front of me. Garashi thought like this, and then shook his head. Unfortunately, it doesn't make any sense. Even if I rule the whole world, when Otsutsuki comes, everything I have is just a flower in the mirror. Only strength is eternal. In Garashi's vision, he needs to let the entire shinobi world join the arms race. The experience of his previous life has already shown that war is the best incubator for the improvement of military technology. With the wisdom of the world, let the current shinobi world's ninjutsu level explode, so that he can stand on their shoulders and truly understand the mysteries of 5 elements, yin and yang, and even Kekkei Tensei. If Otsutsuki values life itself, then what he values is the wisdom developed from life itself. Of course, the premise of realizing his vision is to let the entire shinobi world give birth to more geniuses, and at the same time, to make the shinobi world's environment better. Only when people have a more sense of belonging to this world, when disaster comes, in order to protect this beauty, they will burst out with greater potential. It sounds like it's possible to forcibly unify the shinobi world. But in fact, the human heart is the simplest and the most complicated thing. Those forces that are unified by him may be able to develop ninjutsu according to his arrangement on the surface, but in fact, it's impossible for them to do well. In Garashi's view, the best way should be to guide them to do it wholeheartedly, or even to exert 120% of their potential, instead of forcing them to do it. To do this, he has to spend more effort to guide people's hearts. Thinking of this, Garashi separated a part of his soul into the golden body. Then, the body shape and appearance of the golden body were constantly changing to a certain image in his mind. Looking at the eyes of the golden body gradually moving, Garashi chuckled. The task of stirring up this world will trouble you, Aizen Sasuk-san. Chapter 329. After separating a part of his soul, Garashi's strength will naturally decrease. However, with the current situation of the shinobi world, even if his strength is only 70% or 80%, he can't find anyone who can fight him. Nagato can't, Bordered Soil can't, and Black Zetsu can't. Of course, for the sake of caution, Garashi left the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on each of them. If anyone bullies him, he will immediately summon his clone. A super wood leaf jutsu who can transform. Isn't he afraid of that? After leaving the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Garashi looked at the freshly made Aizen and pondered. My main body's strongest is yin release and yang release, and I will focus on these two in the future, but my strongest point in the outside world is Mokuton. As for the clone, my strongest point is the jutsu of the 5 elements. In the future, I can use the advantages of this body to study the jutsu of the 5 elements. After all, I only know how to use it, but I don't understand it. Thinking of this, a funny picture suddenly appeared in Garashi's mind. The enemy spent a lot of effort to break his genjutsu and stood proudly in front of his clone, only to be told that his strongest point is actually the jutsu of the 5 elements. He has to say that it will definitely be a very interesting picture. Rock Crips's village. He suppressed you and the Nanabai Jinchuriki in an instant. In the Tsuchikige's office, Anoki looked at Han and asked. Han nodded again and again. Super powerful. It's worthy of Mokutan. Anoki exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. For him who experienced the Warring States period, this result was not unexpected, but it still made him feel confused. This kind of opponent is just like Uchiha Madara in the past. Seeing Anoki's expression, Han touched his head and said, Actually, I don't think we need to worry about his strength growing too fast. Anoki looked at him in surprise. What did you say? No matter how troubled we are, there's no way we can deal with Qingshui Shushi. Rather than saying that we can deal with him, it's better to say that we don't even have the ability to resist. Anoki's mouth twitched vaguely. Then what do you mean? If Shimizu Garashi really had the ambition to rule the world, it wouldn't be difficult for him to do it with his ability. However, not only did he not do that, but he also didn't target us, his enemies in the past. It can be seen that he is a person who truly practices the concept of peace. If it's him, maybe he can really do it. Anoki was at a loss. How did Han become like this after going out for a while? Just because the other party didn't do anything to you? Peace built on individual strength is illusory, just like the era I once lived in. Anoki recalled and said, when Hashirama dies, the so-called peace and order will immediately become a thing of the past. It's different. Han shook his head. Compared with the first Naruto, Shimizu Garashi's biggest advantage is that he is young. When the first Naruto pacified the world, he was already 30 or 40 years old. But Shimizu Garashi is only 15 years old now. Moreover, the first Naruto died too early. Peace is just a simple concept in people's hearts. But Shimizu Garashi, if he can promote peace in this world for 50, 80, or even 100 years, then peace will become the iron rule of this world. Yes, time. Anoki suddenly understood, and his eyes were complicated. Is it really possible to achieve peace? Kusanagi country. In a remote village, more than a dozen wandering ninjas were looking back and forth for places in the village where people might hide. Did you find that woman? I didn't see her. She can hide well, but she can't run far with a burden. She must be nearby. Continue to search. Hearing the noise from the outside world, the red-haired woman hiding under the bed and holding a baby became very determined. Absolutely can't let Karen experience my fate again. But at this moment, the hand covering the baby's mouth trembled. Obviously, the baby was crying. Karen, be good, bear with it. Suddenly, the sound of fireworks and firecrackers exploding sounded outside. Fireworks? The woman was a little puzzled. And then her face suddenly changed because the baby in her arms seemed to be frightened and cried even louder. She almost couldn't hold it anymore. Finally, the sound of a baby crying sounded in the village. The woman in the dark comforted and shook the baby gently, and only then did the baby fall asleep again. When the woman held her breath and listened attentively to the outside world, she found that she couldn't hear anything. Just as she was hesitating anxiously, the bed was suddenly overturned, and this violent movement made the baby cry again. But this time, the woman had no time to comfort Karen. There were 5 fierce-looking ninjas standing in the room, and 7 or 8 people standing outside because the room was crowded. Kana, you've made us look for you so hard. The leader of the ninjas laughed loudly. You, all of you get out of my way. Kana picked up the kunai at her feet, and trembled as she pointed at them and shouted, Are you planning to kill us with that toy? It's really scary. The leader of the ninjas laughed and shot out a shuriken, and the kunai in Kana's hand flew away. Seeing this, the rest of the ninjas laughed. Kana bit her lower lip and said, Let me give Karen to someone else to raise, and I'll leave with you. No need to trouble yourself. The leader of the ninjas laughed. Just let us raise her. Let you raise Karen into a humanoid blood-increasing pill? Kana sneered. Don't say that. You and your daughter are much more useful than blood-increasing pills. Hearing the leader of the ninjas say this, everyone laughed again. You bunch of bastards. Kana clenched her fists and glanced at the crowd with hatred. Then, she looked at a man wearing glasses outside the door in disbelief and shouted, Yixing, why are you here? The leader of the ninjas waved his hand behind him. Yixing, come and meet her. Looking at the man with glasses who walked in, Kana still couldn't believe it. Why are you with them? Of course it's because I'm the boss man. Yixing pushed his glasses and said helplessly, if the boss wasn't worried that the blood you nourished in despair wasn't sweet enough, do you think I'd be willing to be with a red-haired monster like you? Kana was so angry that her face turned red. But no matter what, Karen is your daughter. Yes, Yixing said with a smile. So when I found out that she inherited your constitution, didn't I quickly call the boss over to raise her? How about it? I should be considered an excellent father, right? Chapter 330. The rest of the ninjas jeered. Our boss is very kind, right? He even took into consideration the feelings of a pet like you. Rather than a pet, it's better to call her a domestic animal. You bastards, restrain yourselves. At least take care of Brother Yoshitsun's feelings. While Kana was embarrassed, she couldn't help but ask. So you're not going to continue hiding it now? There's no need for that. We already have a better target. The leader of the ninjas smiled and looked at Karen in her arms. No, absolutely not. Kana hugged Karen tightly. That's not up to you. The leader of the ninjas smiled and said, of course, I'm a very kind person, as long as you have 20. No, 15, I'll give your daughter freedom. Kana was so angry that she trembled. You. The leader of the ninjas didn't care about her, and just patted Yoshitsun's shoulder. I'll leave the future to you. Yoshitsun held his waist and sighed. Sigh, boss, you have to get me more tonics in the future. The rest of the ninjas laughed again. Brother Yoshitsun, can you do it? If you can't, we can do it for you. Just as they were talking dirty, a soul pressure descended, as if time and space had stopped. Everyone was conscious, but there was no way to control their bodies. The group of wandering ninjas stared, not understanding what was going on. Kana looked at this scene in confusion. Why did this group of scum suddenly stop moving? One by one, they froze in the pose of laughing at the sky. Performance art? At this time, light footsteps were heard. In Kana's surprised gaze, a gentle uncle with black-rimmed glasses appeared in front of her. Do you want to gain power? Kana looked at him in a daze. And it took her a while to come back to her senses. They became like this because of you? The man in front of her didn't answer this question, but repeated it with a smile. Do you want to gain power? On one hand, she felt that he didn't look like a bad person. And on the other hand, she had the thought that things couldn't get worse. So Kana nodded vigorously in agreement. Sir, please lend me your power. Then as you wish. The man in front of her stretched out his index finger and tapped her forehead lightly. Then, a warm current flowed through her body. Even her dried-up body became moist because of this warm current. Is this power? Kana muttered to herself, then realized that the group of scum had regained their vitality. Strange, why does it feel like time has stopped for a few seconds? Tisk, so you guys also have this kind of illusion? Sir, you. Hearing Kana's voice, a group of wandering ninjas looked at her in confusion. What Sama? Seeing them turn a blind eye to the Lord standing in front of her, Kana couldn't help but ask again. Can't you see the Lord standing in front of me? A group of wandering ninjas looked at each other, and then laughed out loud. Woman, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't tell me you're trying to make up a ghost to scare us away. Haha, Kana, you really have a rich imagination. So powerful. Is this the power of this Lord? While Kana was shocked, she was also full of confidence in the borrowed power. All right, you should be done fooling around. Come back with us. Seeing the leader of the ninjas grabbing towards her, Kana subconsciously raised her hand to stop him. The moment she raised her hand, a powerful chakra burst out of her palm, condensed into a chain, and directly penetrated the chest of the leader of the group of wandering ninjas. No, this is impossible. The leader of the ninjas looked down at his chest, and then fell straight to the ground. Boss, boss! Several ninjas rushed to their boss and touched his nose. Boss, is he dead? Gulp, hearing this answer. Everyone present looked at Kana with horrified eyes. This woman, when did she become so strong? Is this how to use it? Kana muttered to herself, and raised her hand to push it. A few more chains formed, and killed all the ninjas who were pouncing on the leader. This time, everyone was frightened and fled for their lives. For this group of scum who wanted to turn her daughter into a livestock, Kana naturally wouldn't let them go. She became more proficient in controlling the chakra chain, and pushed it forward. The chain flexibly passed through everyone's chest. Ah! Screams echoed one after another. Yixing screamed with them, and after a while, he realized that he seemed to be fine. Touching his chest, he looked at Kana, moved. Kana, you really like. Before he could finish, he was sent flying by Kana's chain. I just want to kill you last. Hearing this murderous voice, Yixing was anxious and didn't care about the pain in his chest. No matter what, I am Karen's father. Do you want the child to be fatherless? Kana's chain stopped, as if she was persuaded. Yixing just breathed a sigh of relief, and was about to speak when he heard Kana say, It's better not to have a scumbag father like you. Wait. The chain pierced through his chest. Yixing looked at her in disbelief and whispered, Why? The last body fell to the ground, and there was no sound except for the crying of the baby. Kana took a deep breath and looked gratefully at the man who was still standing quietly. Sir, thank you for helping me take revenge. Seeing Kana's hesitant look, Aizen chuckled softly. Are you worried that I will treat you like they did to you? Kana shook her head vigorously. I am willing to do anything for you. But Karen, the reason I saved you is naturally because you have value to be used by me. I don't deny that. Aizen smiled. But unlike those fools, I don't want to hurt you. I want to train you into a force that I can rely on. But I am just an ordinary person who knows nothing. Kana hesitated. An ordinary person? Aizen smiled. Oh, whose power do you think killed those people? Kana was puzzled. Wasn't it your power? No, it was your power. Aizen smiled. I just guided it. Kana lowered her head in shock and looked at her hands. My power? How about it? Do you want to be my arm? Looking at the other's gentle eyes, Kana only felt that a ray of sunlight shone into her frozen heart. Aside from being treated as a blood bag, this was the first time in her life that she felt valued and recognized. Yes, I will be your most convenient tool. Aizen Sosuke. Aizen chuckled. From now on, carry this name. Chapter 331. Night. Aizen led Kana through the forest, as if they were on an outing. Kana looked at Aizen's back with admiration. Ever since the grass country, she had finally witnessed Aizen's strength. They walked like this, but no one could see them or hear them. Fortunately, they didn't have bad intentions, otherwise, no matter what they did, they wouldn't have been discovered. While Kana was sighing, Aizen was thinking to himself, although I want to train them, my understanding of the Uzumaki clan is limited to sealing techniques. If I really want to train them, it would be better to find a few specialized teachers for them. Well, he definitely didn't want to be lazy. By the way, use their identity to find a few subordinates for me. He valued Kana and her mother not only because of their potential, but also because of their identity as orphans of the Uzumaki clan. Amidst the silence, Kana noticed that Aizen had suddenly stopped. She raised her head and looked ahead. What entered her eyes was a dilapidated ancestral hall. Where is this? Although she was puzzled, Kana didn't ask. Finally, we're here. Aizen chuckled. Kana, please wait for me outside. Yes. Kana naturally didn't refuse, and turned around to observe the surroundings. When they entered the ancestral hall, everything was the same except for the mask he took from the wall. There are 26 masks left. I don't know how many of them can recover their consciousness under my call. The last time he came to the Uzumaki clan's ancestral hall, he had this idea, but at that time, his strength and timing weren't right, so he delayed until now. Aizen raised his right hand, and the 26 masks floated in the air and circled around him. Behind the masks, there were Grim Reapers. Release! Aizen shouted, and a faint green fluorescence appeared on the surface of the masks. What he was doing now was somewhat similar to the last time. But this time, he wasn't releasing the souls swallowed by the masks, he was releasing them. The masks seemed to be aware of the crisis, and the death god's shadow behind them roared. But they couldn't recover by themselves. They could only howl unwillingly under Aizen's control. Kana couldn't help but tremble when she heard the strange howls coming from the ancestral hall. What is Aizen-sama doing? Although she was afraid, she resisted the urge to turn around. Finally, peace was restored in the ancestral hall. Not bad. 4 of the masks still have some souls. Aizen nodded. 22 masks were completely shattered, and the Grim Reaper within the masks had also lost its spirituality. As for the other 4 Death God masks, they merged with the Death God's shadow behind them. The real mask was worn on the illusory face of the Grim Reaper, as if reality and illusion were intertwined. After a long time, a sigh that seemed to come from ancient times came from the mouth of the Grim Reaper on the left. Where is this? The voice was very hoarse, as if the owner of this voice had forgotten how to speak. The voice seemed to trigger a chain reaction. The other 3 gods of death slowly opened their eyes too. Under their masks, there were no pupils in their eyes. Instead, they were gray whirlpools that were constantly rotating. It was a rather frightening sight. However, Aizen wasn't intimidated by them. Welcome back, members of the Uzumaki clan. Uzumaki clan. These 4 words seemed to have turned on some kind of switch. The 4 people in a sluggish state suddenly woke up. Even the gray vortex under the mask became a lot more lively. My name seems to be Vortex Dark Knight. Vortex of the Night? The legendary predecessor who created the corpse demon seal? You are? My name is Uzumaki Shinichi, haha. I'm just an ordinary person. Uzumaki Shinichi? Isn't that the predecessor who sacrificed himself to the Grim Reaper in order to protect his people? Ha! I'm also a predecessor. After some conversation, the 4 people exchanged their identities. Uzumaki Shigeru, the youngest of the 4. Uzumaki Chiyuki, the only female among the 4. She had died more than 100 years ago. Uzumaki Shinichi had been dead for more than 200 years according to Masaaki. Uzumaki Shigeru had died more than 600 years ago. So, how long has Brother Shigeru been dead? Shinichi-senpai, isn't it a bit inappropriate to call me brother? How can I call you that? There are more than 10 generations between us. I can't call you great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, right? That's right, I was only 18 when I died. I don't want to be your grandmother for no reason. Ah, Chiyuki-senpai, your voice doesn't sound like 18. Ahem. Don't make a fool of yourself in front of outsiders. Shigeru interrupted their conversation and looked at the man standing quietly in front of them. Did you resurrect us? The 3 of them respected the creator of the corpse ghost sealing technique. They looked at Aizen and said, haha, you're right. It's obvious. Aizen chuckled. Why bother? We don't belong to this world anymore. Shigeru sighed. He wasn't grateful to the other party for waking them up. On the one hand, the dead shouldn't interfere with the living world. On the other hand, they sacrificed themselves to the Shinigami in order to increase the strength of the Uzumaki clan, to resist the foreign enemies. Now that they were resurrected, wouldn't it weaken the Uzumaki clan's strength? Is that so? That's a pity. Aizen shook his head. I thought that since you sacrificed your life for the Uzumaki clan, even after death, you would be willing to contribute to the revival of the Uzumaki clan. Revival? Shigeru's eyes lit up. What do you mean? Simply put, the Uzumaki clan has been exterminated. Aizen smiled and pushed up his glasses. Speaking of which, it's been many years. Hearing this, the 4 became excited. No, that's impossible. You must be lying to us, right? I won't believe it. In their fury, the 4 of them wantonly unleashed their soul strength. As death gods who had been able to retain a trace of consciousness throughout the long years, their souls were naturally very powerful. When the 4 of them unleashed their soul pressure together, it was as if they had materialized, causing the entire ancestral hall to tremble. Aizen just released his Ryatsu, Although it was only a split soul that had taken over this body, Shushi, who had received a gift from the priestess and had an extremely powerful soul, was able to suppress them with just a part of his soul. Of course, this was also because the four of them didn't have a physical body. Their soul power was like rootless duckweed. In just an instant, the souls of the four people were intimidated. They were like four small streams that merged into a large river, unable to raise any waves. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.